Good evening. Today is June 13th, Thursday. Welcome to the Township of Chatham Township Committee meeting. I now call this meeting to order. Greg, the adequate notice was given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given to the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 4th, 2019. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 4th, 2019, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 4th, 2019.
Great, thank you. And now, 5th grader Sam Kelleher from Lafayette School and also 4th grader Arjun Parani from Lafayette School will lead us with Pledge of Allegiance.
Can you put that lower? I can't read that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sam and Arjun. Great job. Roll call.
Here.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. Ritter?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Here.
Mayor Solen?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Greg. And now the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And do I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Mr. Mayor, before you entertain that, I have a request regarding Resolution 2019-123, cancellation overpayment of taxes. We're still waiting for a response from the auditor with respect to that resolution, so I'd ask that it be pulled from tonight's agenda pending receipt of the auditor's advice.
Thank you, Al. And that's the number one on the consent agenda, 2019-123. So anything else from anyone else?
I would like to pull 131, fertilization and maintenance of fields and lawns, for a separate discussion.
Okay. And Kurt, you were saying something.
Two items I'd like to discuss or just get an update on the discussion thing. One was possible ordinance or information from Albert or John, not John, I guess, Albert, if you might know. We were discussing prohibiting trampolines, play sets, etc. in one's front yard. I don't know if we can discuss that tonight preliminarily or not.
I didn't hear the last part, I'm sorry.
If we can discuss that this evening, if we have anything to discuss, or
Yeah.
Front yard, you were going to check with Greg.
Yeah, I've checked with our construction official, and there's no prohibition against play equipment on people's property.
so then I guess put it on the agenda for discussion to discuss if we can in fact consider introducing some kind of ordinance to prohibit as such. And the second item for discussion was just clarification from the Communications Committee as it relates to the distribution of press releases.
I'm sorry, which item is that on the agenda?
It's not on the agenda. I wanted the discussion item I'm introducing.
Oh, you want to put that under discussion?
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kurt. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? And amendments are the number one, resolution number 2019-123, and also resolution 2019-131 are being removed from the consent agenda. So,
And you're adding to the discussion regarding press releases?
sure, and we're adding discussion.
And play sets and trampolines and such.
And the Resolution 2019-131 was not being removed from the agenda completely, it was just being a separate
Item.
discussion
It'll be
item.
discussion as a separate item, yes. And whereas the 2019-123 will be removed from the agenda today. Do I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Or roll call?
Aye.
Okay. All right, then it's approved as amended. Thank you. All right, so now we have a proclamation regarding the Open Space Month. And I will read that proclamation. and you will bear with me. Open Space Month, June 13, 2019. Whereas June is Open Space Month, which has been designated so that we can all recognize New Jersey's diverse and beautiful network of preserved land, working farms, historic structures, parks, hiking and biking trails, fishing and boating spots that contribute to the quality for life for 9 million residents. And whereas Open Space Month was also created to celebrate New Jersey's national leadership in land preservation, conservation, and stewardship, with more than 1 million acres of land preserved in nation's most densely populated state. And whereas Open Space Month was established to amplify the need to continue efforts to ensure the quality of our drinking water by protecting land critical to water resources, as well as making sure that every child can walk to a park in their neighborhood, and that land of our working family farmers who provide fresh, locally grown produce are protected. And whereas Open Space Month highlights New Jersey's decades-long efforts to save our historic and cultural heritage, as well as purchasing routinely flooded properties and returning them to their natural state. And whereas the preservation of open space has shown to help raise property values and decrease demands on infrastructure. And whereas the Township of Chatham has a proud history of preserving open space with 389.46 acres having been acquired for recreation and conservation purposes. And whereas the Township's Open Space Advisory Committee is dedicated to identifying, evaluating, and facilitating the preservation of undeveloped lands within our town, subsequently increasing the township's inventory of parks, recreational areas, and greenways. And whereas the Open Space Committee also seeks opportunities for the development of trails and paths on existing open space properties to enhance the ability of residents to enjoy our natural surroundings. Whereas the County of Morris has long supported Chatham Township's efforts in open space preservation through grant opportunities. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Typhoon Selen, do hereby proclaim June as Open Space Month in the Township of Chatham and encourage residents to enjoy the open space recreational opportunities available in the Township of Chatham, and on behalf of the Township Committee, urge all residents to walk or bike on the beautiful trails available in our community, as well as those around Morris County. Thank you. Okay, now,
We do have a representative here from Morris County, as well as from our local Open Space Committee.
excellent.
So,
And who will come up here to receive this proclamation from the Open Space Committee from
Ed?
Morris County? And if the committee would like to come down and have a photo op.
As the Township Committee's liaison to the Open Space Committee, I'd just like to welcome Denise Chaplick from the Morris County Open Space, and Ted Smith, who's with our own Open Space Committee, and just convey our appreciation for all the good work you do. The open space in Chatham Township is a large part of what makes Chatham Township what it is, and Morris County has always been a great supporter, and we benefit from being on the right at the trailhead to the Luantica Preserves, and it really is a great relationship. So thank you very much for all you do, and for all our local committee does.
Yeah, I just want to remind you and make the public aware, the open space program is under the greater umbrella of the Preservation Trust, which includes not only open space, but historic preservation, floodplain mitigation, and the county has now a newest program, which is the Trail Construction Grant Program. It's now in its fourth cycle. This year, 2019, we have $1.4 million available this year for all municipalities in the county to come and submit an application for a grant. So we encourage the township to come and submit an application for a trail construction grant to provide more access to those open space that you've already acquired. So please come and submit a grant.
Thank you. All right. Now we're moving on to the reports. And Kurt, do you have any reports?
Board of Health did not meet this past month, but just want to reiterate to everyone, remind them on September 21st of this year, we're going to be hosting our 4th annual Out of the Darkness Walk. This is a walk that supports the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. If any residents have an interest in volunteering or getting involved with this walk, I encourage you to email me, critter@chathamtownship-nj.gov. Plenty of opportunities for young and old. I know a lot of high school kids need to get certain volunteer hours. It's a great way to do it. We could certainly use your support. It is the only walk in all of Morris County, so it's pretty significant. Last year we had over 350 walkers, raised over $65,000. I think our 3-year total so far is about $250,000. So it's a great community event, not only raising funds, but importantly awareness of suicide prevention. And the only other thing I want to say is I just want to congratulate all the candidates who ran and were elected to run in the November general election. Mark Hamilton, Rez Estevez, Stacy Ewald, and I believe the writing was Celeste Fondaco. So congratulations on that. Encourage all residents to get out and vote in November. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kurt, Karen?
Thank you. Yes, I do. I'll just keep it brief. I know that we're having a discussion about our playing fields and other public lawns today with fertilization and maintenance issues. I would just like to remind the public, as I've been going around and doing a personal little back of the envelope investigation about what's going on our playing fields in the township, I see a rampant use of our playing fields by people with their pets. And I really do wish to remind the public that our playing fields are, by ordinance, restricted from having pets, from walking your pets, from seeing pets urinating and defecating on our playing fields. We're having a discussion here about keeping our playing fields safe for our kids and safe for the environment. The idea that our Department of Public Works is out there cleaning up after our pets because they're using our kids' playing fields for their own dog runs is pretty egregious to me. So I'd just like to remind the public that the use of our public parks and our playing fields as a dog run to run unleashed and unchecked is against our township ordinances, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Tracy, anything?
Yes, the Environmental Commission met this week. They continue to do their good works. They're making a series of 1-minute videos on what you can recycle and what you can't recycle. It is tremendously confusing as to what you can and can't do. So we're hoping that these 1-minute videos will shed some light on whether your caps for your Pepsi bottles can go versus your metal caps. So It was a very nice effort on behalf of Christina Mott. We also discussed the Sustainable Jersey certification and what we're doing for next year. And there was a discussion of the proposed field treatments, which will be discussed tonight. Recreation did not meet, but Bob and I have had a discussion. I brought to him the idea of temporarily lining our tennis courts, which is also going to be discussed tonight, for pickleball. We thought if we could expand the idea of pickleball's become so popular, that we thought if we could take it outdoors, and given that our courts don't get a lot of usage now from residents, there was a lot of people out today though, which was nice, that we thought we might be able to extend that and see if there was interest in having pickleball in the late afternoon on our tennis courts. So we're following up on that. This weekend for Colony Pool is our open house. So I encourage anyone and everyone to come down and experience the joy that is Colony Pool. There will be live music, there'll be games, there'll be hula hoop contests, log roll contests, potato sack races, free ice creams for those who participate, and you'll get a chance to try out our new concessionaire, the Meat House, from Summit, who by all accounts has been a great success, and I hear their fish tacos are very good. So we encourage you all to come out on the 15th and the 16th and enjoy the open house. Rolling Knolls did not meet. The next meeting will not be until July 31st at our municipal building. For those of you who don't know, that's about the Rolling Knolls remediation and the community advisory group that is formed around that. That's located in Green Village. The meeting will be on July 31st at the municipal building from 6 to 7:30 p.m. That's it.
Thank you, Tracy. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to expand on the open space topic, for two other issues, if I may. Denise from the Morris County made mention to the fact that there is a trail grant deadline coming up, and we will be applying for that for some trail improvement and expansion on the Averett property, which is on Hillside Avenue, across from the Dixie-Dale development, which is coming before the planning board. So we're hoping to really improve the resource there as an open space for that quadrant of the community, which is going to see some extra development, and this is going to see some extra open space usage in that area. And another open space news item is that the Open Space Committee has drafted an update to the open space element, to the planning board, to the master plan, excuse me, and that has gone to the planning board, and they expect to be looking at this and a few other master plan elements later in the summer. So if this is of interest to you, keep an eye on our website and on the planning board agendas as they're published, because this is the master plan that looks ahead to the kinds of open space priorities and strategic vision that the township has. And we're looking forward to an update on that to really meet the future needs. On a separate subject, the Public Safety Committee met this past 2 weeks and discussed a very interesting and important program. If any of you have been reading the Chatham Courier or the alternative press, you know that a perennial problem, thankfully more often in surrounding towns than in our town, is the break-in of autos in people's driveways. The people who inadvertently leave their fobs in their car, leave the door unlocked. Cars on occasion have been stolen, but more often just rifled through. And the police are exploring a program which will take advantage of the new generation of doorbell cameras. There are approximately 700 of these doorbell cameras now in Chatham Township. And at the moment, if the police become aware that there's a problem in a neighborhood, they have to go door to door, try to catch people at home, and ask for their help in looking at their camera footage to see if there's anything that might help them in their investigation. The doorbell company itself actually has a program working with the homeowners where the police can spread the word in a targeted neighborhood and say, hey, something happened in this neighborhood last night. Could you please check your footage and see whether you saw anything, or and if they see it and it's something that they're willing to share with the police, they can drop it over in a drop box that's accessible to the police, and the police can use that in their investigation. Conversely, if a homeowner is interrupted and catches something on their video and they become aware of it before the police do, they can quickly send it over to this drop box to the police, and the police can get it in real time and hopefully help them identify perhaps a car or a person that might be of suspicion with an incident. It's all based on voluntary participation by the homeowner. There is no police access to people's camera. It's all done by the homeowner and then moved across. So we think it's a excellent step forward in what we already have as one of the safest communities in New Jersey, and we get recognized for that regularly. But we think that this is a great way for the police to work with the community and the community to work with the police. So that's a program coming in the near future for Chatham Township.
Mike, when you say Dropbox, you mean the app or the
Yeah,
electronic
it's
tool for
electronic.
transferring a file?
Yes.
Not bringing it and putting it in a Dropbox?
No, electronically.
Thanks.
So, and that's it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. John?
Nothing critical, Mayor.
Nothing? Okay, thank you. Bob, you have a report?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, a few items. Number one, the township staff has started Operation Organization. We started that a couple of weeks ago. Operation Organization is we are taking all of the files, starting with our building department, and we are refiling them. Some people may ask why. And the reason is our long-term goal is to be able to scan in, index, and make our files accessible to all of our departments, commissions, boards, committees, as well as our professional staff. But to do that, we have to reorganize them because our files are filed by year. They are not filed by block and lot. So if one of the members of the township committee had taken out a permit for their house, it would be filed in a block and lot, but it would be filed in the year that the work was done. And we don't have a way right now to figure out, without going to look through all of the files, where that would be. So we're reorganizing them by block and lot. We are also going to be color coding the files so that we will be able to add the Board of Health, Planning Board, information from the clerk, whatever. And the ultimate goal is to have that all online. But a journey starts with one step, and we're 2 weeks into the journey. We've found some amazing things. We have done our staff has done some great work, and I want to commend Kathleen DeRosa and our summer helpers for the work that they've done. And long term, there will be a benefit to our staff. We will be able to provide information in a quicker manner to our residents, and we will have more accurate information. So we will be able to make better decisions in the long run. And it will also be online. It will be electronic. So that's something that's good. The bad news is we have 6 rooms of files. So we're going to be going through this. This is labor intensive, but it's something that needs to be done, and we will be successful in carrying it out. One of the benefits also to the residents is going to be that residential plans for your home, by statute, the state requires that we keep them for 10 years, and after that we can dispose of them. So we are going to organize an opportunity for residents to receive their plans back. So we will, to err on the side of caution, we will start to return plans that are 12 years old or older. And if residents want them, they will be able to pick them up. And then at the end of this project, we will also be sending out a large email blast to people to say, you will have, we've got the plans, we're going to have them in a special place. You'll have 90 days to come pick them up if you want. And if not, we'll decide what we do then. So that's the first item that's important. The second item that I wanted to report to the Township Committee is that we are fortunate to have a rising college senior that's receiving college credit for working with us on doing a recycling project for the township. So Kara is our recycling intern. It's Kara McCaffrey, and she's been with us for 2 weeks now, and she will work with us for 90 hours and receive college credit. She has an interest in environmental science and has just been a very big help to our recycling coordinator. I will be forwarding to the Township Committee a PowerPoint presentation that Kara put together for us today, just with some of the things that she and our other staff members have found when they did the mandatory recycling audits. So our township members, our township residents, they are enthusiastic about recycling, sometimes too enthusiastic. We need to do a better job with education, as I think I heard Committeewoman Ness mention, because the laws keep changing. But overall, our residents are recycling, and we have a 3.28% rate of trash contamination. So the international law is 0.5% per ton for contamination for recycling. But our rate is much lower than the standard rate for the state of New Jersey. So our residents are doing a really good job. And this was something that is very eye-opening, and we have some nice pictures of what was found, and these will be good with the 1-minute videos as well as some other posters that we'll do. But I wanted to thank Kara for her work, and she's here in the audience watching the Township Committee. So Kara, if you want to stand up and.
That's it. So I think you have another intern, Dylan Murray.
We do. Well, we have two
others.
summer helpers. We have Dylan Murray, and we have Kyle Albrecht, and we have one more summer helper that will be starting July 1st.
Okay. I met with Dylan, and I think he's doing a great job as well. So.
Yeah, he and Kyle are on operation organization. So,
Okay.
So that's
Excellent.
good. And basically, the only other item that I will report is that I will be meeting with Ms. Chaplick next Wednesday, June 19th, about the open space grants and the process that we have to follow.
Okay. He said 1.4 million available. Let's try to get a lot of that. So.
They said something about euros.
All right. So, is that it? Your report's done. Okay. Albert, anything? Okay. So I have one quick thing that you may have heard already, that Chatham Borough and Chatham Township earned 2018 Healthy Town Award from New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute. That was on tap into Chatham. And want to congratulate everyone who's involved with this. This is like 7-8 years of past work, and all the mayors and committee members and all the folks, staff members here at the township. And I'd like to say, I mentioned one person particularly, and Tom Salvas, who has been involved with this from the beginning, my understanding, that I want to also thank him and congratulate him for this award. And he's not here, and this Alex is doing our video now, and this is the first time that she's totally in charge. But Tom Salvas has been involved with this, and thank you very much, Tom. So that's all I have as far as reports. So now, we're moving on to the hearing of citizens and petitions. And this is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. So please come up and speak up if you want to speak up on anything other than what we have on the agenda as ordinances.
Now, speakers are asked to give their name and their address. Now the microphone is right behind you.
Hello, I
I'm Arjun Purani, and he is Sam Kelleher over there. And we are going to address the skate park. So it is Open Space Month, and everyone at our school agrees with us. The skate park should stay. Lots and lots of children's dreams are being affected. Now you need to ask yourself one question. Do you want to make a kid's day, or do you want to wreck it? You all know the answer deep inside you. All you have to do is make that answer happen. My best friend, Sam, and his brother Gray, who is not here tonight, are skateboarders. Sam has been boarding for a year or two, and Gray has just started. I know you want Chatham to be well known. It can be well known, but you can save the skateboard too. At school, kids wore their shirt backwards to show pride. Even our design and technology teacher, Kyle Kermick, did. We had lines for people wanting to sign it. We even got help from Liam Egan and Julian Turnstrom, 4th graders at Lafayette School. We went to Fisherwack to get people to sign. We even got a lot of adults. Also, we can make a deal with you. If you save the skate park, me and him, Sam, can get a deal with someone else in the next 2 years. Now I'll give it to Sam.
Hi, my name is Sam Kelleher, like Arjun said, and I'm going to talk about the skate park issue. Do we really want to destroy the skate park? I don't think so. The Chatham Skate Park is a mini community. Kids go there from the time it opens to when it closes. Everyone that I've met there agrees on one thing. We have to save it. It's their home away from home on the afternoons and weekends. Also, skateboarding is not an expensive sport. If they take down the skate park, it is discrimination against the people who don't have enough money for other sports, like tennis, golf, rock climbing, and more. All you need is a skateboard, pads, some people don't wear them, some people do, like me, and your helmet, and you're set to go. You can get a skateboard at a skate shop, yard sale, garage sale, and more. Have you ever moved and been ripped from your community? Well, imagine the reactions of hundreds of people's communities were gone. That is the reaction you will get when you tear down the skate park. Skateboarding is also good for you because it improves balance. It also gives you more metabolism and gives you the rider the freedom, you or the rider, the freedom to create freedom and creativity to do their own tricks. Also, there's a company in California called Get On Board. They teach kids with autism and special needs how to skateboard for free. In Chatham, we have a lot of kids with autism and special needs. If Get On Board came here, a lot of kids' lives would be changed. I have a petition that has roughly 580 signatures on it. Do you want to upset that many people? I wouldn't. I, Sam Kelleher, am a skateboarder with a mission, saving the skate park. Help me and we will make the skate park thrive and full of people. Kids with autism and special needs will be skateboarding. Get On Board will be thriving and hundreds of people won't get ripped from their community. I got all these signatures for my petition by taking it to school and getting students, teachers, and staff members, high schoolers, and high school teachers. I also took it to the skate park and got skaters to sign. I got about a 15% of the population of Chatham. Do you really want to tear down the skate park and rip those people of their communities? I don't think so.
We forgot our addresses.
Thank you, Sam and Arjun.
So, my name is Aiden Sims, and I live at 755 Fairmount Avenue in the Township. Mayor Selen and the Chatham Township Committee members, my name is Aiden Sims, and I am the captain of the Chatham High School Boys Varsity Tennis Team. I am joined tonight by a number of my fellow teammates, their parents, and representatives from the girls' team. First, I want to bring your attention to the outstanding season we had this year. As captain, I helped to lead the overall team to a ranking as high as 8th in the state from an unranked position last year. My partner, Dennis, Isaac, and I did even better, becoming semifinalists in the state doubles tournament down in Trenton. This result is the best result any Chatham tennis player has achieved since 1971, when Chatham's own Peter Fleming competed in the state semifinals. More broadly, the varsity team was state sectional champions and runner-up in the Morris County tournament. As a result of our success, we have had the opportunity to play at dozens of high school and municipal tennis facilities throughout the state. We've been to rural and urban schools and have played in rich and poor communities. The thing that stands out the most is how much better condition all of the other tennis courts are compared to our home courts at Colony. The Colony courts are cracked and worn beyond belief. If you are not a tennis player, you would probably think Colony looks like any other court, albeit a little faded and cracked. If you are a tennis player, you realize that the court surface is well past its prime and is in need of resurfacing. In years past, no one wanted to take responsibility for our home courts. The school district pointed to the town, and the town pointed to the Chatham Recreation Department. The rec department then points their finger to someone else. Today, I am asking you for your support for the continued success of our team, as well as to preserve a valuable resource that is enjoyed by a larger Chatham community. I realize that resurfacing courts is not cheap. However, I'm asking the Township Committee to put the cost of resurfacing Colony courts into the budget within the next 2 years. If you follow this timeline, I will have already graduated by the time the resurfacing gets done. However, it will be worth it to me to come back and see many more generations of Chathamites benefiting from my request tonight. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Aiden, thank you, and congratulations to you and your team, and you made us all proud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Sims. I'm obviously Aiden's father, and I'm also the parent manager of the varsity team. I have a daughter as well that plays varsity in the fall, so all total, I'm on the Colony courts roughly 6 to 7 months out of the year. As a result of their training, my children trained up in Bergen County. They've trained in Florida, in California, in Arizona, so I spend a lot of time on the courts and speak to a lot of tennis managers, directors, etc. about tennis court services. I just want to give you a little bit of color where the courts stand and what the costs are associated with resurfacing courts. As far as court resurfacing, the average court needs to be resurfaced every 4 to 8 years. 4 years if you're a public court, 8 years if you're a private court. In a Q&A piece I put together, passed it to Tracy Ness, I said the average court is roughly 5 years when it needs resurfacing. How do you know our courts need resurfacing? There are two things that I would highlight. One is there's black mold throughout a lot of the court, creating very slippery conditions for our players. Our players have slipped on the courts. No one's gotten injured yet, but that's something that will continue to get worse. The mold is a result of the court surface. It's typically an acrylic-based surface. When it wears away, the mold spores then can be embedded into the court. The second factor is the puddling that takes place after it rains. When you see puddling, it's a reflection of the court surface starting to sink. The only way to correct this is to resurface it. When a resurfacing company comes on board, they put on a resurfacer. Well, first they fill the cracks, then they put on a resurfacer to fill the low points, and then they typically put on 2 coats of an acrylic paint-based system on top of that, followed by the lines. In terms of cost, obviously court resurfacing is not cheap. It varies widely in the Northeast. I've had an opportunity to speak to 6 contractors in the past 36 hours, as well as spoken to municipalities and other athletic facilities that have resurfaced their courts in the past 5 years. The range is from $5,000 per court to about $13,000 or $14,000 per court. Why do we need to, in addition to the team, tennis is a growing sport throughout the country, and it's a growing sport in the region. Unlike some other sports, I don't want to pick on golf, but it's a contracting sport. This is a sport where you see 3-year-olds on the courts, and you see 90-year-olds on the courts, and you see families on the courts. This is a piece that we want to have in Chatham. In terms of the economic cost and impact and the return you get from an investment of resurfacing, it's like a playground or a park. You know it that the towns, the good towns, take care of their public facilities. And that's what I'm asking. Tennis courts benefit everyone. You finally happen to mention that you just started seeing a lot of people on the courts and that previously the colony courts might not have been occupied. A lot of the Chathamites are heavily involved in tennis. They're currently at Center Court during the winter, at Murray Hill during the winter, at the Strand during the winter. But you'll see the numbers pick up in the outdoor courts as the weather gets better. So I thank you for your time, and I hope, understanding this is not an overnight process, but please, in the next 2 years, let's say, please try to get this in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Kara Fieser, 3 Falmouth Road. I've been to a couple of these meetings extolling the Township Committee for doing the right thing last year and switching from using toxic chemicals on our playing fields to a more organic, non-toxic, kid-friendly, pet-friendly option. Chatham Township was truly a leader in public health, causing surrounding towns to take notice. In fact, there was such an uproar that the Chatham Township was using non-toxic methods that the borough residents pushed for non-toxic methods on their fields and switched to now doing nothing at all on their fields, not even an organic method, in order to have a safer playing fields for the kids. Now this precedent is being challenged in the township. I'm having a hard time as to why a price tag of $5,770, less than probably $1.50 per child, is being put on our children's health. Their lives are in jeopardy. We know now, the scientific research shows that toxic chemicals cause cancer, cause diabetes, cause asthma, cause autism. They even have the ability to turn genes on and off, affecting future generations to come. This is a science called epigenetics. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends eliminating children's exposure to chemicals where they play. Greg, this is what I submitted to you that I'd like to have on the record. So this is the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation that these chemicals should not be where children play, as well as people should reduce children's exposure not only on the playing fields, but in their homes as well. It's not the high dose of this stuff that they are necessarily worried about, like a high concentration one-time dose of this stuff. It's more of the chronic low-dose exposure. We find these chemicals in our air. We find them on our food. We find them on homeowners' lawns. We find them on playing fields. This chronic exposure is what builds up and impacts children. Children absorb these chemicals 10 times at faster rate than adults do. We can't put our kids in a bubble, but we certainly can try and protect them when we can. Excuse me, I had a lot to go through tonight, so this time I made notes. Okay. We need to move backward, not forward. These chemicals certainly weren't any safer, or less safe last year than they are now. Nothing has changed except the knowledge of the price difference. I am aware that we need to be budget conscious and understand why we need to do so, but this is the wrong place to take action. There's always ways to get creative. In the grand scheme of things, this is not a lot of money. Yesterday, I was here and I looked out the window while sitting in the cafeteria, and I saw landscaping of the flower beds outside the municipal building. And although very nice, as I probe further, I learned that the cost of maintaining those grounds were $10,000 over the course of just 2 years. So to me, we could look into creative ways of managing a landscaping budget. That's $10,000. That's the difference that we need for 2 years practically for acres of land that children are playing on versus a little plot of space. I'm also aware that there is a narrative being tossed around that the organic option on the fields did not work. This is unfounded and unjustified. These fields have not been treated all spring due to the lack of contracts in place. One would expect there to be weeds. The fertilizer that the landscaper applies in the spring has a weed control component added to it. That, unfortunately, did not have the opportunity to be applied. So before we blame the landscaping company, let's examine the reasonable explanations and take a look at each field. Mountain View right here has never been treated by the current landscaping company. It was deemed unnecessary due to the lack of any sports being played on it. Secondly, Esternay, unfortunately, that was never a field that was in very good shape. It looked the way it does now as it did with the old landscaping company that was using toxic chemicals. Shumpike, still a beautiful looking field, has patches of clover on it. These patches of clover could have been avoided if there was the treatments that should have been applied in the spring actually applied. Plus, we had a very, very heavy rainy season. There are lawns that are treated with the conventional pesticides that are weeded as well. Lastly, Nash, still a very nice looking field. So before we what I would like to do at this point is take this whole idea that it did not work off of the table, because it most certainly did last year. I would consider this year as doing nothing. Lastly, I'd just like to say I am not a landscaper. I am a resident that fortunately has had the career to have the aptitude to weed through pages and pages of scientific journals, to have this interest in environmental health and protecting our children, had the ability to work with pediatricians locally that are interested in this topic as well, work with landscapers, developed an excellent working knowledge myself, and for better or worse, probably know more about this topic than anybody in the township. Most importantly, I am a mother fighting to make my children and all these children here safe when they go out and play on these fields. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't fight and I didn't try and take at least some of these bad elements in this world away from my children in any little way possible. We can't put them in a bubble, but if I can do something, I will. I urge you, the power is with you guys. Please continue with the non-toxic treatments of our playing fields and Colony Pool. Thank you.
Hi, Stacy Ewald, 54 Nicholson Drive. I wanted to thank the Township Committee and Mayor Slen for the work that you've done with PSE&G regarding the right-of-way and the clear cutting they had done and getting some monies back to the town to help restore those areas. Between Southern and Fairmount in the right-of-way, a few months back a utility maintenance structure was put in place. And I'm guessing it was a cellular company that put that in place. But those typically are surrounded by fence. Every time I've gone to a planning board meeting or zoning board meeting, they're to be surrounded by fence and shrubbery. And that hasn't been put in place, and that's a bit of an eyesore on top of the fact that the grounds haven't restored. They're slowly restoring, they put some seed down and stuff. So whoever is, keeps an eye on that stuff, they can take a look and find out what's going on, because that absolutely should be covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Richard Matlaga from Dale Drive. My question is, as I sit here and we talk about open space, and we have part of our tax dollars going to open space, we had a representative from Morris County, and then I look at, as Deputy Mayor Kelly mentioned, the Dixie-Dale project. And part of the Dixie-Dale project is to take current open space in Chatham Township and give it to a builder to build rental housing in under the Affordable Care Act. And I just wonder, has this been thought through? You're taking, when you go to the planning board and you look at the plans, you have 10 pounds of potatoes in a 1-pound sack up against the police headquarter building. The parking lot will be between the police building and Southern Boulevard, 24 units with only 36 parking spaces compressed up against there. It doesn't make sense, and then it kills the skateboard park where kids go. We mentioned in the review or the proclamation for open space, children can walk to the playing fields. Yet we are giving away current open space to a builder who could then sell that property. It's not for condominiums, it's a giveaway to a builder. I think that needs to be thought through. And also, if the response is, well, we have to do it, why not lease land to a builder because it's rental property? It's not a condominium that at the end of the 30 years of affordable housing, you can get it back and do what you want, what you feel the town needs to do with it. And also, as we think about affordable housing, and we mentioned the Britain Road site there, but also we have to think, what is the Township Committee going to do with this building? You have 11 employees working in this building. That's it. It's a large building for 11 employees. It's a 50-year-old school building. It's expensive to heat, it's expensive to cool. It's expensive to maintain. That is what you should be considering. But I do ask that you think about the location of that affordable housing, because it doesn't make sense when you look at it in the congestion it's going to bring to Southern Boulevard. Thank you.
Kathy Abbott, Wynwood Road. I want to commend Kara Fieser for a wonderful summary of the situation about the organic lawn care, and I just am reinforcing some things that she mentioned. I was on this battle 10 years ago. We got as far as IPM in certain pesticide-free zones on playgrounds, but then she succeeded last year with the help of the Township Committee in getting the organic lawn care for fields, and that's wonderful, and I think we should continue it. I also want to say I took a trip with her in maybe 2017. We saw Glen Rock, where Lincoln Landscaping had been working for a while, and those fields over a couple of years really look good. I mean, you can't say that it's the same as 100% chemically treated lawn, where you have zero clover, zero dandelion, zero plantain weeds, all these things that we know, that I learned about in learning about this lawn chemicals. I also want to just point out, for the public as well as for the Township Committee, which may have already decided to continue the way it had gone last year, but that is that people should know, it's just hard to get the message out because you have big chemical companies making a lot of money on lawn pesticides, but which is for bugs and for weeds, and both insecticides and weed killers are are toxic to children. And you have insecticides mostly work as a nerve agent, and they came into the domestic chemical industry as lawn chemicals after being used in the wartime industry in the early part of the 20th century. So we're just ignorantly taking something that they transformed to make you beautify your lawn. Never mind, I mean, not knowing at the time that long-term exposure causes, can cause cancer, can cause, well, it can cause a lot of damage in children in the womb, and things like autism and autism, ADD, low IQ, as this letter says, congenital abnormalities, preterm birth, low birth weight, and even asthma, just for anyone. And I also wanted to point out that, so the weed killers work on hormones. We all know, even women with makeup, like or soaps or whatever, we don't want any endocrine disruptors in our products for our bodies. Well, that's exactly what a weed killer does. And in fact, it grows the weed to death. It actually stimulates the growth till it can't handle it and it dies. So, of course, something that's stimulating growth hormones in plants is disturbing children who are rapidly growing on the cellular level. So it's just, it is science, and the epidemiological studies have to prove it with a lot of vague connections. And so that's what this letter is saying, that they've had these long-term studies that are getting a lot of correlations, because it's just not as simple as saying something like smoking causes lung cancer. It's much more, it relates also to the genetics of the individual as well as the long-term. And everyone here, if you took your, I think it's in urine, but it's in your blood, like they can do a urine test, everyone has a pesticide burden in their body right now. And you have a bigger burden the more you're exposed to pesticide, but we're carrying it, it stays in the body. Thanks.
Hi, Maureen Kelly, 67 Mountain Avenue. Just here to speak for, we need organic treatment of our playing fields, and as much as possible, let's not poison our children. Let's not poison our drinking water. Everything that goes into the ground in Chatham Township ends up in the Great Swamp or the Passaic River, which is a source of our drinking water. I'm a grandmother. My grandkids don't live here, but I wouldn't want any of them on these playing fields, and I want this best for the kids in Chatham Township and for everybody who lives here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Cairns from 46 Delwood Avenue. I've met most of you here. I'm here with my wife, Christine. 2 weeks ago at the committee meeting, there was a discussion about an ordinance on 55 Floral due to a poorly designed drain that was causing a nuisance in the form of a pond in the backyard of that property. And I applaud the decision to make good on that and do what's right. During that discussion, our property came up. And there was a lot of discussion. And I believe it was necessary to come here today, as we've been talking to a number of you about doing, because I don't think that the committee, over the course of the last year and a half that we've lived here, has been properly informed of the issues. And certainly I took issue with how our issue and what has been done was characterized at that meeting 2 weeks ago. And so perhaps it's just worth telling you exactly what it is. So every single time it rains, in the back of our house, we get a 2,500 to 3,000 square foot pond, anywhere from 14 to 18 inches deep. Our property butts up against the high school and the 4th and 5th grade of Lafayette School. And someone in this side of the room said that rain falls down from there. Actually, we don't get any sort of rain drop from the high school. But so that's the issue we have. And in the discussion last week, we heard the town engineer, John Rushke, talk about why that was. And some of the words he chose to use were things such as, that's the natural flow of the drainage. That's the natural flow of where the water goes. You know, we've dealt a lot, and you're going to hear we dealt a lot with Tom Chigarone previously, who used to educate me on how gravity worked, and that water flows downhill, and in fact not uphill. What both Tom previously and John the other day failed to tell everybody in this room is that the back of our property, there's a dry well. It's a 94-gallon dry well. It's 24 inches wide, 48 inches deep. It equates to 94 gallons. Our backyard, and unbeknownst to us, I'll get to that in a second, is the terminus for nearly every single catch basin, which that's the official town engineer word for sewer, the gutter. Literally, the gutter system. If you walk out of your house, it's where people throw their poop bags when they're finished walking their dog. It's where the trash runs. It's where the dirt, whatever. Everything that goes in there on Fairmont, Highland, Washington, and Delwood Avenue comes down together into a series of pipes. Those pipes go into another series of pipes on the next street down, into another series of pipes, and another series of pipes. And there's one, as far as I can tell, and as far as I know, there's one terminus for that, 46 Delwood Avenue. And we happen to be the low point. That is true. We happen to be the low point of the road. But the whole notion of it's the natural flow. If you drop a bucket of water up on Fairmont Avenue, I assure you, it does not end up in my backyard. If you put it in the street, it runs into the gutter, it will end up in my backyard. And so I do believe that the committee has been, receiving a nuanced version of exactly what's happening. And I can't believe that I actually have to come here to correct it, which is actually quite amazing. So let's take and if anybody wants, you can actually see what all of the committee members have a picture of me and my duck hunting waders standing in the pond in the back of our house. That was Monday. It was not a superstorm. It was not a 100-year storm. That was not a hurricane, a nor'easter. Weather Channel called it light rain, scattered showers. And I'm standing in waders up to my knees. But let's take a step back. My wife and I moved in October. We were in the process, like most people, of buying our home in the spring. We were living in Vermont, 6 hours away. It wasn't as convenient for us to see all of the natural occurrences that were happening. Somebody alerted us to the fact, a relative alerted us to the fact that they saw what looked to have been some remnants of running water on the property. So we should check that out. So this is the second time I've been to this building, because the first time is when I came down to investigate, what is it? We knew there was a drainage easement, so we just wanted to figure out what's in the ground. So we happened to catch Tom Chiccarone in the office, didn't know who he was, didn't know the function of the town administrator. I've learned an awful lot about that. And so we said, hey, we're thinking about buying this house. We understand there's an easement. Can you explain to us what infrastructure is in the ground, first of all? How bad is it? What should we expect if we move here? If we're going to spend what is, I'm sure like a lot of you, the most, biggest capital outlay of our lives, what would we expect? Tom said, I'm somewhat familiar with that property, something sort of, I have a recollection of something. Let me talk to the town engineer, and I'll get back to you. A day or two later, he called back and he said, I talked to the township engineer. There is a drainage easement there, but I assure you, it's only severe storms, something you also heard last week from the township engineer. Only severe storms. He said, and he used these exact words, I promise you, 100-year storm, something of the magnitude of Superstorm Sandy for there to be any issue. You guys remember Monday? You remember this morning? This morning it rained for an hour. I got the pictures in there from Monday and today. 14 inches deep, 3,000 square feet. It's 11,000 gallons of water sitting in our backyard. So, needless to say, we've had some really interesting discussions with the township. I stand by the accusation that we were bald-faced lied to by the town administrator. I emailed, made a few calls as soon as we moved in. As soon as we moved in, we saw that this was in fact the case, that not superstorms, certainly, not Superstorm Sandy, is not hurricanes, but literally every single time it rains, we get the same effect. The same effect. So imagine you bought your dream house, or what you thought was your dream house. You spent effectively your life savings on such, and you literally couldn't figure out what the heck's going on, what's broken. So I made a few calls into Tom Chiccarone, didn't hear back, called him again, didn't hear back. Finally got a call from John Rushke, who said, well, sure. For 15 years, I've been dealing with every single person who's ever lived in this house. Township Road is well aware of this. You have a huge problem there. I got a history lesson on the glacial ponds of Chatham Township, and it certainly confirmed to me that we were lied to. To this day, we have no idea what motivation Tom Chicharone had to have hidden these facts, omitted these facts, or skewed them. But clearly that's what happened. So we set into a series of emails trying to figure out, all right, let's get out, try to fix this. I asked for meetings. I tried being nice, offering coffee. These emails went to Tom Chicharone, John Rushke, and at the time, Mayor Kurt Ritter. I offered coffee. I offered you to come have beers or wine. Let's have I'll bring the coffee down to the township. Let's just get in a room and let's figure it out. It took 16 meeting requests, 16, and a little bit of a snarky. I went snarky. I went mean. I went nice. I tried it. We were at a loss. How do we just get them engaged? The DPW guys came out just to appease me at one point, and they just sort of threw the sludge and said, "Oh, we've known this for years. This is a known problem." But I finally got Tom and John to come out to the house one day. I thought we had a pretty productive meeting. We were talking about, look, there was an expensive solution on the table at one point. Maybe there's some interim solutions. Maybe there's some other things we can do to make the water go a certain place or sort of manage it or something. And one thing we heard quite a lot that day, and have since heard in emails from Karen and from Tracy, was if we do anything, even the most minimal of minimal things, you have to sign a waiver that says you give up all your rights. That was what I call the Rushke waiver. That basically, that was the most important thing to this gentleman right here was silence the resident, don't solve the problem. And I've gotten that.
I never said that.
No, which part, sorry?
The part about saying that you would have to waive your...
No. Your email to me referenced hidden saying that. That you have to recognize the limitations. But in fact, what he said to our house was, you got to sign something that says you cannot ask for anything else. Okay? And so we'll table that for a second. So we have a huge problem here. I finally get the township down to talk about it. The township being the engineer and the administrator. And I felt like we actually had a good meeting that day. So I said, great, well, let's, I'll look to hear back from you. Because we finally have made progress. At that point, it had been, I don't know, about a year or 9 months or something, 6 months, whatever it was, of constant emailing. And so a month went by, we didn't hear a thing. So I reach out to the group, the email chain that we've been going around, and I said, hey guys, any updates? I thought we had a good meeting. And I heard back that said, I want to reiterate that you would have to sign something to give up your rights, but it does not have support to move forward. So reiterate that, but it does not have support to move forward. Who gives that support? I don't know. I assumed it was the committee. You're the leaders of the town. I asked that question. I share my displeasure with the answer. And honestly, just figured out what are we going to do here. It was only after meeting some of the folks campaigning. Tracy was great, showed up the day, she found out about this. Other folks, Typhoon, you showed up, with campaigning and took a look at it. Obviously, Karen, we talked about it. You saw the issue. I think, Typhoon, you're the only one who's seen it actually with water in it, because no one's been there, at least since we've been living there, to see water in it. And so finally, we decided to sort of pick it back up again. This is not a problem we're just going to let happen, right? We're talking about playing fields and poop on the playing fields. We have poop in our backyard. I have a 2-year-old and I've got a 4-year-old. And oh, by the way, there's 1,900 kids whose school butts up against theirs. I see the kids out there throwing stones. What if a kid trips and falls? It's 18 inches deep. It's a safety issue. It's a sanitation issue. But let's get back to the comments that were made last week. A couple of the comments that stuck out to me last week were, works fine in normal rainstorms. It's only the severe weather events. As I mentioned, the pictures you have are from a light rain and whatever we had this morning. It rained for about an hour, and moderate rain for about an hour. We also heard that the dry well is working as designed. The street was designed that way, and it's got a dry well, and it's working as designed. The 94-gallon dry well, you have the math in front of you. It's 11,000 gallons at the light rain, It actually calculates up to 15 to 17,000 gallons at a severe weather, which you have in the back of your decks. And you can see what a severe looks like. It encroaches on our neighbor's property at that point as well. Another one is the natural drainage pattern. We talked about that. You should know it's not a natural drainage pattern. It's a sewer system. The sewer system no one told us about that terminates in our backyard. We have not been offered a deal. As was alluded to the other night, well, we talked to the homeowner. We were not offered a deal. At the time, we were so desperate, we just might have taken it. But now that we've seen some really good precedent set by this committee at 55 Floral, and congratulations to them, I think it's great. I think we should continue moving forward. You said that the difference there was it was an easy thing to fix. It was a cheap $20,000, $30,000. The police department doesn't solve petty crime only. The fire department doesn't drive past Dale Drive because those houses are too big. You got to sort of, I realize that everybody here campaigns on it. I appreciate that. AAA crediting all the good stuff. Fiscal responsibility is a fabulous thing. This is an old town with old infrastructure, 70-year-old pipes, 70-year-old, streets. The drainage issue on Lenape with the curbs. It's an old town. I mean, at some point, you got to stop choking the town and pay for what the town needs. And right now, dumping the entire wastewater of Upper Washington into our backyard is unfathomable. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens in the slums of India, not Chatham Township, where the average house is over $1 million and the average taxes are, I don't know, 15,000-ish. It's just amazing. And the apathy and disregard that we've gotten from some of the employees at Chatham Township has just been amazing, and I think that the committee should be embarrassed by it. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a little bit of help, a little help from the committee. I know that in the Tom Chiccarone era, a lot was decided and didn't make it to that. We learned that when everybody came stumping in. You'd never heard of it. You'd never heard of our issue. Kurt, you clearly have, but I don't know. And so it was denied, or it did not gain approval. I guess just it didn't get past these seats. So that's our problem. I look forward to you talking about it like you did 2 weeks ago, continuing the dialogue, realizing that the good precedent you're setting with 55 Floral, and that some people are being treated differently than others. It's a big problem, and we're going to have to find a big solution. But I think it's just unfair, it's unsanitary, and it's unacceptable. So thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
Hi, Jen McNally on Ferndale Road, and I'm glad I sold you 3 of my 5 minutes standing in line. I'll be quick. I just wanted to say I was inspired to come up here tonight by my son's 4th grade classmates from Lafayette School. You guys did an amazing job. And the skateboard park, if you drive down Southern Boulevard, it's always full. It's always full. What a lot of people here may not know is that land was always marked, not for the skateboard park, but it was always something for affordable housing. So it was always in the mind when the people raised the money, put the skateboard park in, that was something that we all know, right, from the meetings we've been to, that was something that was not a long-term thing. The skateboard park can be relocated, and it's interesting that Tom Chiccarone's name came up for the speaker before me, because he's the guy who also stood up here in December and in January. I don't know what recourse we have to discuss this again, is that he said he was looking into alternative locations. He would not disclose what that location is. We can go back and watch the video. He said he was working on alternative locations for the skateboard park. So maybe we can do something to pursue continuing that conversation about the alternative locations of the skateboard park. It was either the meeting in the end of December or he had left, I think, January 30th, so maybe it was the second meeting in January. But that was definitely brought up, that he was pursuing alternative locations to the skateboard park. So that's something we haven't followed up with. It hasn't come up at another meeting. I was waiting for somebody else to ask that question, but they haven't. And the other thing about the skateboard park is that we gave the land to the developer, and it came up at the meeting with all the skateboard park people there, and this seems to be a new crowd, maybe some people who were here before. One of the people asked, did we appraise that land before we handed it over to the developer? Apparently we did not appraise that land, or maybe this has changed since we handed it over to the developer, but we've attached, and I don't know how it works, but typically when we have a transaction, I would assume that there's some sort of appraisal, even though it's a 3.5 parcel of land that was always earmarked for this, so maybe it's different, but we had no appraisal for that land either. So I'd be curious to have an answer on what that land is appraised at as well. So I'm curious to see what we followed up with from the conversation with Tom Chiccarone when he went at the meeting and said he was looking into alternative locations, but he could not disclose what those locations were. And if we are able to attach an appraisal value to what that land is, if we have to go ahead, the affordable housing is something that, we're engaged in. It's something that has to happen, and it's good for the town. It gives people the opportunity to afford to live here, who work here, who teach here, who are police officers. It will help to enhance our community. But I think the transparency that we need behind it to make sure you guys did an amazing job with your proposal to keep it where it is, but we need to really work on an alternative location, and that stuff can be removed, maybe, if it's in good enough shape, and we can all work together to, as a community, to maybe relocate that skateboard park like we had discussed in the meetings in the end of December and January. And I think the other thing I want to talk about really quickly is I'm a tennis player. I'm a tennis coach. I played tennis in college. I was a teaching professional. I went out and saw those tennis courts today. I hadn't been out there in about 2 years. Those tennis courts are in terrible shape. So when I look at the skateboard park being taken, that the skateboard park is in jeopardy, these tennis courts are in jeopardy, it says to me about Chatham and the community and what kind of recreation are we willing to offer people? Are we pushing people to go to private recreation? Are we pushing people to go to their towns to recreation? We're not maintaining our recreation here in our town. So to make Chatham's an amazing place, I should be able to go out to Colony Courts with my kids, right? Pay for the permit, whatever it is, and go there and not have to pay to be a member somewhere else. I should be able to go, a skateboard park is here. Maybe we relocate it and we have a committee where they'll bring the community together to rebuild that skateboard park somewhere else. But I saw those tennis courts today, and the fact that we had people from other towns all over New Jersey coming to the Chatham Township tennis courts, it was just, it was inexcusable. It really was. I grew up playing tennis on public courts in Miami, and those courts were never like this. I mean, it's public in Miami, right? Town of, I had 900 kids in my high school class, and everybody played tennis. And we never had courts like that. So I'm happy to see the tennis kids are here. It's very important. It's very important to our community, and it's a sport. It's a sport of a lifetime, and everybody should be encouraged to have the recreation abilities here in the township. So I'd really like to say, to go on the record, that those courts need to be resurfaced for the good of not just the team, which did an amazing job considering the courts you were given to have that standing, but for the whole community as it is. And looking at the environmental piece too tonight came up. It's all these things that make a community so strong. So the respect for the kids, not resurfacing those courts, shows really a lack of respect for the kids, a lack of respect for the community. We need to pay attention to these fields. How do we respect these kids going out there, Chatham Rec Baseball? All these parents spend all this time between travel baseball, rec baseball, all these sports. And if we don't take care of our fields, we don't take care of our courts, we're not encouraging the community to have recreation abilities here in our town. So that's why I'm standing up here today. I would like to know, with the skateboard park, that relocation, the possible relocation, why that was kept under wraps. I would love to know what happened. It's on tape. We can go back and watch it. It's the last.
I can answer that.
Oh yeah, what is it? Yeah.
Well, we go through the chair. Well, you can finish and I'll.
Yeah, but I'd love to hear that, and I'd love to hear about the appraisal.
Jen, please finish your
No,
comments.
I'm good.
Then
I'm good. I sold him my minutes.
choose-
I had,
choose a stance.
But yeah. So go ahead.
All right.
Are you finished with your
I'm
comments?
done. Yeah.
You're done?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a gong, right? Should we get a gong
All
up
right,
here?
okay. So,
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are 3 locations for a potential relocated skateboard park that we're looking at. I will not divulge them, but there are 3 locations. My last conversation was with our shared Borough and Township Recreation Director about two of those locations. I will tell you that we have received inquiries from another community. If we are unable to relocate the skateboard park, they wanted to buy our equipment. So that was something that recently came into the mix. But there's one of the locations is here in the township, and then there's another location that's I will not say where it is. But we're looking at that. You had also asked about the appraisal for the skateboard park. I'm not sure how old the appraisal is, but the property is going to be split. That parcel is part of a larger parcel, and it's going to be split. So I was calculating the value of that skateboard section at $451,948 for the newly split subdivision. So
The 3.5 acres of the 15.
What's that?
Like the 3.5 or so, whatever the acreage is. The parcel of the 15 acres.
Yeah, it was based on the appraised value a few years ago as well as the assessed value. So I did something that was blended, and then it's going to have to be reappraised again once it's split. But that's what I'm estimating the value is. I was estimating that it's but it's subject to change. But that's what we're.
That's great. A number's great. Any number attached to it.
Well, it has to be an accurate number.
Right, an accurate number. Any accurate number. Great. But no, thank you very much. I think as respect to the kids who are here, I think these guys did a great job. We had fourth graders going out and getting a petition. We had the tennis team coming. It speaks a lot for our community. So I think the respect we owe our kids here, right, is to take care of these fields, to do the right thing, to resurface the tennis courts. These guys came out here today. This is their community too, and they're the ones who are going to go on. And these are the guys, they say, what do we say at the high school? We are Chatham, right? Is that what you guys say? And this shows tonight, we are Chatham. So to put the responsibility on you guys, we are Chatham too. We really need to show the respect to them, that we respect their sports and their time and their commitment to things. So thank you for your time, and thank you for those answers. It was great.
Is this too short for me? Thank you so much. Hi, Sharon Roche, 333 Green Village Road. First off, I'm so happy to hear that there are several locations that you're looking for the skate park. You know, I always talk about that. But I'm actually coming up here.
Could I just give it, Carrie? Thank you for saying that, but we just, we want to make sure the locations are good, so it's the...
I understand, but I'm
spots,
glad
parking, the whole nine
to
yards.
know that you're looking into it and that it wasn't just dropped, because I was very scared that when Tom left, that was going to be the end of it. So, but I am standing up here as a nurse and as a mother, and I have 2 young boys in town, and my husband is a baseball coach. And so they spend an awful lot of time on the sports field. So I just want to come up here to ask that when the discussion does happen, that you could please strongly consider continuing the organic land care. I do everything I can in my power to limit their exposure to toxins. We know how dangerous they are. We know that they're bad for our bees, right? We've all heard all of these things, and we want to make the right decision for our families. That's why we're here. That's why we live in Chatham, because we know we have a good, strong community that's going to take care of our families. So please, please take that into account. The other thing is, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm a nurse and I feel like I need to say it. But there is a state-sponsored program that is happening on June 18th for anybody who needs Narcan. It's free. You can get it anonymously. And in our area, I don't know if anyone knows what Narcan is, but let me just put it out there. It reverses an opioid overdose. So in our area, June 18th, the Rite Aid at 213 South Street in Morristown will be giving it out for free. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm not as tall as her, but Jessica Romeo, 49 Pine Street. So I'm here to talk about the field maintenance. And I just want to say we've set a precedent in Chatham Township for being leaders. We pride ourselves, as we should, being leaders. We've proven that. We are leaders in things concerning public health, environmental stewardship, protecting our open spaces. These are all things that are really important in a community, really important for keeping our people healthy, for keeping our property values high, for making people want to live here. You know, Kara on the Environmental Commission embarked on a 2-year mission. She supplied tons of research, tons of data why we should move away from using toxic chemicals on our fields, our playing fields where the kids play. My daughter's at Sprout House. She's on that field every day in the borough. So when we made the switch, I held the borough to our standards. And I said, look at what we did. How dare you not follow suit? My child is on that field every day. So to think that we might go back to exposing our children and our residents and polluting our drinking water with toxic chemicals is beyond my comprehension to save a few dollars. I've looked at some of our budget things. There's some money there to be saved. There's some things you can move around. It can be done. I'm urging you guys, do the right thing for our public health, for our drinking water. You know, Pilgrim Pipeline, we didn't want them here. If you're going to say yes to this, you might as well call them up and say, hey guys, come on in, it's open season. Do whatever you want on our fields, do whatever you want to our drinking water, pollute away. So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Dan Miller, 465 Green Village Road, in illustrious Green Village. I have 2 topics. First off, I want to reiterate what was said about the ball fields and the organic applications. You know, I've watched those ball fields go from when I was a kid where they were mostly puddles. We had snow fence for home run fences. We didn't have benches or anything over at Nashfield, okay? So in this town with the millions of dollars over the last, say, 45 years, maybe more, since I was playing on those fields, to where they are today, the investment of $5,000 to do something right seems pretty minimal, and I think it should be carried forward. You know, and we wonder where can you get that money? Sometimes we say, you know, I've heard that Mr. Hoffman said the budget is pretty tight, and a lot of people say it's pretty tight. I remember Committeeman Brower used to donate his salary back every year, so I'm looking at $5,000 right there. Okay? Just a little FYI. Second off, I can empathize with the fellow here with the drainage, okay? And you made a nice proclamation, Typhoon, but I would have to say it needs to be amended to $8,999,000, because my mom, who lives at 362, next to county property, okay, where drainage exists, but it's not being maintained, okay, by the county. You know, we see the photo ops and we see the get the money and everything else, but we don't see the maintenance, okay? Last year, we had to call the Board of Health because the septic on that property hadn't been abandoned properly, and it was flowing, okay? And that was the only way we were able to get any kind of results. The Park Commission, basically, no pun intended, poo-poos doing the maintenance. We also had to have our township go and cut the right-of-way in the front, okay, because you couldn't see coming out of the bike path, couldn't see coming out of the post office, but most importantly and near and dear to my heart, you couldn't see coming out of 362 Green Village Road. Why the township and the county chooses to terrorize an 81-year-old woman is beyond me, okay? Now, because it's not cut or maintained, she's got snakes coming up on her backyard and up onto her stairs. The mosquitoes are so horrendous. I was over there cutting lawn just a few days ago. You can't stand in her driveway, and it's because the drainage isn't maintained, nor is the property cut to the standards that Chatham Township has ordinances to, okay? Just because the name on the deed is Morris County Parks does not supersede Chatham Township's maintenance ordinances, you know, just like Dan Miller's name on the deed doesn't, okay? It's road frontage, it's supposed to be well maintained, and it's not, and it's too bad. You know, the biggest comment I got from Dave Helmer was, hey, if anything should happen to your mom, we'd be interested into the property, okay? How offensive is that? Are they trying to force an older woman out? So, you know, you folks need to step up, okay, and get something done. Get them to maintain not only that county property, but all of them. You know, same with the Kirby property. You know, it's supposed to be cut twice a year. It's not cut twice a year. You want to know why it's so wet? Because the county drainage that goes through there isn't maintained. The pipes are broken. That's why it floods up on the short piece of Shumpike where the day school is, okay? These are common problems. We know what the problems are, but nobody does anything but take a picture and make a nice proclamation. Typhoon, you and I stood out there 2 months ago, okay? Grass was up to your knees at that point. Now the grass is up to my head. I keep getting shorter, but still it's pretty tall, okay? So this, I know that emails have gone about, and I know that, you know, everyone knows what the right thing to do is, and once again, it's the will and the desire to get it done, okay? And that will and desire sometimes includes telling those very people you're asking for the grant money from, hey, you got to take care of the problems too. And there again, you'll hear everything. We don't have the resources. Do you know how much it would cost? And this, that, and the other thing. But in the meantime, the residents here in the township get hosed. And that's not right. That's not right. You know, we're generational here. We've been here since the 1700s, my family. We've formed fire departments. We still serve. We've done all these things, okay? but yet our community doesn't care about us. But we've always cared about our community, and it's wrong. And I hope you get something done about it. I hope maybe I can hear from John, or maybe from any of you on this committee, maybe Michael, because you're open space. You know, you got some ins to get these people out there, and get them out there soon. Time is short. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christine Cairns. I live at 46 Delwood Avenue. You heard from my husband earlier today, and I just wanted to reiterate and just emphasize a few of the points that he brought up. First, just on a personal level, it was just really upsetting after purchasing our home and being told that this was a dry well maintained by the town, that it wouldn't be an issue, only to find out afterwards that actually there was a long history of problems that we were unaware of. So personally, we just feel wronged, which is just upsetting, and I know, you know, it's not of much consequence, but it's just feels wrong. Second, it's a safety issue. We've heard a lot about pesticides that end up in drinking water, which ends up in gutters and ends up in our backyard. The pond, as you saw, comes up above my knee. We have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, not to mention many other children in the neighborhood, children walking to school. You know, there was a drainage issue on Lafayette, a construction project that was left abandoned or not completed. Within a day of residents complaining, the construction company was made to build a temporary fence around that area because children walked to school past it and it was a hazard. That's our backyard. Are we at fault if someone is to trip in that pond or have an issue? You know, it's something that we can't control, yet forms on our property. Third, and something that wasn't mentioned, you know, yes, while the water's there, it's a problem, but after the water leaves, it's an almost worse problem. When we purchased the home, there was sod newly placed in that whole lower part of our backyard. Now it is dirt. After every time it rains, there's rocks, sticks, leaves, plastic, you name whatever ended up in the gutter in our yard. We can't, there's no grass to mow any longer. First we had to have a lawn care company come in because there were so many rocks you couldn't even run a lawnmower over it. Why should we have to pay personally every time after it rains to have people come and maintain this area that's just littered with debris from the gutter? You know, this property is our, you know, this is land that we own, this is our home, and I understand that it's going to be a large cost to potentially fix this drainage issue, but it probably doesn't compare to the damage done to our property value. If we were to turn around and try to sell our home now, I don't even think we could. You know, no one in their right mind would buy our home. If we knew what it was before we bought the home, we wouldn't have. The only reason we did is because we were led astray or misguided or things were omitted. It's just very upsetting basically to feel trapped in this property now because I don't think that we could sell it. And fourth, you know, I think everyone is here, they're devoting their time on a weeknight and hours and years that you've devoted to bettering our town. I think you're interested in fixing real problems, not just ones that are easy and convenient and cheap. This is a real issue that I don't think we should back down from just because it might be hard or too difficult to solve. Thank you.
Joe Bezarelian, Fairfax Terrace. My respect to all the previous speakers and my respect to the basically volunteers who give hundreds of hours of your time because you want to solve problems. Thank you again, just as we thanked you a year and a half ago for the decision to not use toxic chemicals on the fields where thousands of our kids play. It was enlightened, it was smart, it was cost effective. Thank you. And a word about our kids. Almost everybody here has kids. We know how many times do we tell them, look both ways before you cross the street? Twice. How many times do we slave over trying to get them to eat healthy food? How many times do we tell them, you got to get your sleep, you'll be so much better tomorrow morning? How many times do we say, you know, don't emotionally abuse your sibling? All we care about is the health and well-being of our kids. If it's a $5,000 matter to not have toxic chemicals in the fields where babies and little siblings roll around in the grass, eating dirt while their siblings are playing, where trillions of particles are getting picked up and breathed and gone into the pores and into the eyes, $5,000 out of a budget of $15 million. We know we love our kids more than $5,000. We put $67 million into our school, into our SDOC school district budget. We love our kids more than $5,000. And we're not just going on hocus pocus. As you see, the American Academy of Pediatrics puts out reports saying there's too much toxic chemicals on our fields. They say it leads to, studies have shown, it leads to developmental disabilities, sharply on the rise since we started using chemicals in the last generation. ADHD, autism, cancers, diabetes, obesity. If this is a $5,000 or $10,000 matter, this should not come up before the committee. We should not be using toxic chemicals. We should be using organic, non-toxic chemicals to take care of our fields. If it's a matter of $5,000, I'll stroke a check for $500. I'll bet there's 9 or 10 other people who will do that. It should not come to that. So I'm not trying to dress down the committee. We made the decision a year and a half ago to go clean for the thousands of kids who rub the fields all over themselves while playing. Let's just stay with that enlightened decision. I think it's the right thing to do. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Christina Mott from Nicholson Drive in the Township. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Ritter for making the Resolution 2019-131 a separate agenda item and amending the agenda before the meeting began. Because, as you can see, there are so many people who spoke so passionately about why organics would be much better than conventional pesticides. And I guess I just wanted to say, from a practical standpoint, this isn't simply an award of a contract, but it's a policy change. You made the decision to go with organics last year, and I think most residents would not understand, even if they diligently watched the website, even if they read the proposed resolution. It's not clear that this is a switch, and I think a lot of people didn't really get a chance to be heard. I think luckily, there were a lot of people that were heard here tonight, but I think there probably are a lot of people in the township who would argue that they thought this was a done deal. The decision was made for organics. It's about $1 a person, less than $1 a person, to pay for organic chemicals. And I think that, if we want to have a strong community, we need to realize that, changing a policy without really letting everyone know is really, hurtful. And so I just ask you to please either delay the vote or really consider just voting against the resolution and going with organics. Thanks.
Okay. We don't have anyone else. Then we're going to proceed with the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing, final adoption of ordinances. And we have one ordinance, which is Ordinance 2019-09, accepting drainage easement on 55 Floral Street. So this is the final adoption, so I am... First, let's start with John. John, do you have anything to mention before I open up to the public?
No, Mayor.
Okay.
No further comment.
Okay, so I'm opening to the public. If anyone would like to take, would like to speak about this particular ordinance, please introduce yourself. And
Richard Matlaga from Dale Drive. So this is on 55 Floral.
That's correct.
What was the situation that gave rise to it, and how much is the cost for the remedy?
John, would you please answer?
Yeah, there's 2 catch basins located on 55 Floral, and from those catch basins, the pipe extends onto that property, and then it terminates, and there's a section of property, and before there's actually another pipe that's located within easements areas. And this is typically what we see usually when a drainage pipe goes within an easement area, it usually follows a natural water course. Maybe there was a stream there historically, or that's where the water, it may have just been a drainage swale, and typically those areas are piped. And this is a section that just was not piped. It's just, it's actually getting an easement to install piping to connect 2 sections of pipe that's missing. The projected cost, we're going to likely try to do some of this in-house and with the DPW, but we're estimating about $30,000 to close in the section of pipe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Patrick?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, just to be clear, there are 2 catch basins. Patrick Cairns from 46 Delwood Avenue. lakefront property, Chatham. There are 2 catch basins. What is a typical amount of water that ends up in that backyard?
I don't have those calculations.
Do you happen to know the square footage of the pond it creates in the backyard?
No, it doesn't create a pond, it's a stream of water that flows.
So do you feel that that's a nuisance to the homeowner?
The homeowner would like to have the piping. Clearly that there's a pipe missing that should have been connected when they installed the drainage piping, so.
So you
the
believe it was
homeowner-
poor design?
I think it was probably, and when they installed the house, that, frankly, a lot of this is installed by developers, and so when they installed the house, the developer at the time elected not to install the pipe. It was a decision of his possibly to not install this section of pipe. I can only speculate why this section was not installed.
Great. So a public nuisance because of a stream. Do you think it's a sanitary issue as well?
No, because this is storm.
Would a sanitary issue have made it a worse problem?
No.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay. Anyone else? No?
Yeah, John, I just wanted to ask you, so this was a developer that, when the house was built, didn't put the pipe in?
It's all speculation regarding, these were installed when the piping, we don't know the exact date, we can only speculate that. The piping was installed when the road was constructed, when the homes were constructed, and they installed the catch basins and they installed a section of pipe onto these properties, and they just terminated. They didn't extend it because there is a drainage pipe located in the rear of the property on another easement. So what this homeowner requested is that can we extend that piping to connect, to complete the system?
And that's going to cost $30,000 to do?
Yes.
To stop a stream?
Yes, correct.
Seems like a great deal of money. Is there any way to ask whoever put this in originally to provide money?
We can turn around and just not request an easement, and the property owner can do it themselves.
What do we normally, we have so many people, I don't want to leave the homeowner in the lurch, but we have so many people like Mr. Cairns and their family and other people who are experiencing these drainage issues, people on Lenape. I mean, is this just a result of, with our easements on Woodlawn?
I don't think, if I may, I think we really shouldn't stereotype these drainage issues because you mentioned Lenape. Lenape is a unique situation where the road is flat and the drainage is just there's just poor flow along the roadway. So it's not necessarily an issue of it's poor road design. Say at the time they should have had in today's standards the minimum road slope is 0.5%, and that in some cases is less than that. It's almost flat. So that's the situation in Lenape. The situation over on Delwood, and I'll just briefly go into that. And the depression that's located in the rear of this property is probably, we keep there was reference to a natural feature. And that isn't true. The fact is that it's a natural feature. You can go on our website and look at the 1962 topography that we have, a historic topography of the town. And it shows this depression. This depression, was even before the school was built. So this is an area that naturally flows to this area. It's a natural depression. There's no evidence that this was constructed as part of the roadway, as part of the homes. It was a natural feature where the water flows to this low point in the road. And the way it's functioning now, I believe, in my opinion, is the way it functioned from day one when they first built the house and built the road.
Would have loved to have known that.
Excuse me.
Would have loved to have known that.
Mr. Mayor, please let the engineer finish. This is really a public hearing.
Sure.
About another issue. We should go back. I do have some notes and I do have some comments that I want to make about Delwood, but this is not the right time.
Okay.
This was informational from our engineer. It was educational, but we really should be concentrating on the public hearing for this ordinance.
Okay. So now, are you wrapping it up real quick? Are you done?
it's just that they're different circumstances.
Okay.
That's ultimately, there are different circumstances, and it does warrant some discussion so the committee's aware of the
Okay.
situation.
At the end of the day, the Tarascos are giving this property back to Chatham Township, am I correct?
Yes,
They're deeding the property off of their property, this is their property, they're deeding this property back to Chatham Township. We're accepting this easement. It's an easement.
It's a use, right to use that property, that land.
Correct, the mayor's correct. The property owner continues to own.
He continues to own it.
Continues to
Thank
own
you.
it, subject to an easement with this pipe.
Okay, so you know what, let's move on with what we have on the agenda, 55 Floral. So is there any other comments from anyone else for this particular ordinance? Okay, if none, then I'll ask if there's a motion, if I have a motion to approve this, adopt this ordinance.
So moved. I'll second.
Second, okay. Any committee discussion? Anyone from the committee? Okay, roll call vote, please.
I'd like to understand where we're getting the $30,000 from.
You mean where the money is coming from?
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, it's not budgeted for this year. It could be completed this year.
Well, we have a lot that we need to budget for next year. So where is it coming from next year?
Well, the first step is to put the easement in place so that we can figure out what's going to be the cost, and then this would become part of our discussions for the 2020 capital budget process.
So this just grants the easement. It doesn't mean that anything's going to happen in the next year.
Not for the next 6 months, anyway, yes. For the next year, absolutely, yeah.
There's no funding, there's no funding.
Okay.
And the 30,000 is more, the initial objective was just to have this done in-house, and it's just a matter of buying pipe and such. But after speaking with the DPW, they feel that it would be more productive to hire an excavator to assist them, and that's really where some of the cost is coming from, because they're not going to do it all in-house. They're going to have an excavator help assist them.
Okay, thank you. And before I get to roll call vote, and I think we should deep dive into this property a little bit more in the next few weeks or so. So it's great to help a resident, 55 floor, which we should do, and then we should help other residents if the similar situations are existence. But again, we need to deep dive, I think, to learn more about it. And John, I think we need your help on this. All right, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda, we have two ordinances to be introduced. Three? I have two.
Can we look at the packet I gave you tonight?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, there's an ordinance for a sewer bond improvement that had been
Okay.
that had been discussed. Initially, we had the ordinance, but it just wasn't put on.
Okay. I
It
see.
was an
Yeah,
addition
yeah,
this
yeah.
afternoon.
Okay, okay. All right, three ordinances, then we'll start with the first one, 2019 11-11 multi-purpose bond ordinance. Bob, would you like to give us some feedback on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a multi-purpose ordinance for capital projects in 2019. So part of it is we have $300,000 for DPW equipment. We also have money in the ordinance for road paving, municipal road paving. There is a municipal contribution for installation of field lighting at Nash Field. The township anticipates receiving a matching grant from the Chatham Athletic Foundation, and also there will be some additional work that will be done by the Baseball Association on the fields. There's also funding in here. Probably the most important part of the ordinance is funding for two new pieces of fire apparatus, so that we can serve our residents well into the future. And those are the key points for this multi-purpose ordinance.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. And do I have a motion to introduce?
So
moved.
Anyone second it? One of you would second it, that would be great. Tracy, would you second it?
Or you can.
You
move
vote.
to- I'll second.
Both gave them.
Fine.
All right.
Whatever
all right.
works.
All right, any committee discussion?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate my concern about the paving with whoever can you give assurances, John, that this paving job will be done better than what was done the last go-around?
Yeah, it is the same contractor. Certainly we can pay more attention to the contractor. We do, what we can do is look at, after we mill the road, and see if there's any areas that are, that should do base repair. And then there is a provision in the Morris County Co-op, if you do have them do base repair. So that is something we can look at and see if there is any areas that should be, because we're trying to build off a subgrade, and if the subgrade's damaged, there is the potential that the road's not going to hold up as long. So we can look at that more, more carefully, and if needed, we can adjust that.
Is there any warranty, so to speak, on these, or is it expected, what's the life expectancy of this kind of work?
It's not, we're not paying on, that's not the way this contract is set up. We can go out, if we were to go out to bid this separately and put those provisions in a contract, the cost is going to be substantially higher.
I guess you get what you pay for. As I said, I think you should have DPW and others look at what they did a year and a half, 2 years ago, Huron Drive, Van Houten, elsewhere. I don't know if it's on Nicholson and Sunset or wherever else they did. It looks like.
Yeah, one of the things that we do, and I did speak to the DPW about this, is that, again, we're working off a subgrade, and if that subgrade is not, and if we do look at reconstruction of subgrade, now all of a sudden you're doing one road a year, if that, with the reconstruction of a road. And so there is that balance of yes, the balance that we can reconstruct a road and guarantee that we're going to get 20 plus years out of it, or we can resurface it and the expectation will be less. But in order to make up for that, we do have to crack seal, we do have to do maintenance. And that's the one thing with our newer roads, and I did speak to the DPW, even if there's one crack on that entire road, we should seal it and just keep up with that sealing, because usually if a crack occurs very early in the paving, it's usually a reflective cracking. It's a crack on the sub-base that just made its way up. And the best way of doing that is to crack seal it right away so that you don't get water penetrating into it and it doesn't deteriorate the concrete. And so they're supposed to, I'm surprised they haven't already did it, but they should have been already.
Well, they probably went up there and realized they got to do sealing curb to curb, because it's a mess.
Yeah.
So I just say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I hope we don't have this conversation in 2 years' time, and people on these various roads are saying the same thing. So.
Understood.
Greg, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slen?
Yes.
Motion passes, and public hearing will be on June 27th.
Great, thank you. The next ordinance to be introduced is 2019-12 Do Not Knock ordinance. Albert?
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was discussed at the last Township Committee meeting. A draft of it was presented to you at that point. You provided to me some comments and suggestions, and a revised draft is before you. Essentially, what this ordinance does is allows a voluntary creation of a do not knock, do not drop off registry in town. When I say voluntary, I mean it is voluntary on the resident's part. The resident would sign up or register for this list with the clerk. The clerk would maintain that list, provide it to the police department, and every peddler, solicitor, canvasser that comes to the municipality would be given a copy of this list with the understanding that the individuals on this list do not want to be approached. And that is essentially the ordinance that's before you for introduction.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
We'll get to the discussion.
Sorry.
So moved. Anyone second it?
Second.
Second, okay. Now committee discussion. Yes, Tracy.
It seems to me that since the police are the ones who are going to enforce the do not knock registry, obviously our police website is not up right now, but in the rebuilding of it, wouldn't it be easier if there was a button on the website that would go directly to the police that could be maintained on a daily or weekly basis, rather than going, I don't know if this is a procedural thing, rather than going to the clerk to maintain, then the clerk to send to the police? Can that be a more expedient process and more resident-friendly?
I'll allow the clerk to address that, but I know that that was a consideration of the clerk. And
6 to 1, half a dozen to the other. I didn't have time to contact the police to see how jazzed they'd be about the idea of maintaining this list. So it can be one more of a multitude of things that I do.
Well, let me make a suggestion. Move forward, see how it works. The ordinance can be amended to change the procedure.
Well, as we're in the process of, we're going to be starting in July, hopefully with our new technology person, starting to update and redo the website and bring the police website back online. So given that unbelievably it is June 12th, we are almost there. So in putting out what we're going to be doing on these websites, if we decide at the time, as the police website is being rebuilt, to build that function in, do I need to come back before and make a resolution for the committee, or am I bound by going through the clerk?
You're bound by what the ordinance currently says, which says the clerk maintains and creates the list.
So then can we amend it and say the clerk and or the chief of police?
At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to make a difference whether it's maintained by me or by the police department. It's easy enough for me to maintain it and send it by email to the police department.
If we're suggesting that the website will be updated, right, to allow for new accommodations, then maybe we'll just get this going and get everything rolling as it is. And then when that does, you don't have to go live on a button, if you will, right away, right? You can
Yes, add the
it.
button to the township website.
We can add a button to both websites and have it forward to either me or the chief or both.
These are all
Website's a website.
It's fluid, right? Everything's pretty fluid.
Yeah, we just wanted to make it as, or I would like to make
Seamless,
it
yeah,
as seamless
sure.
as possible. And if the ultimate arbiter and the person who's going to maintain the list are the police, and the police are going to be the ones who act on the complaints, is there any harm in saying and or the chief of police?
I don't like and or, because I don't know who's in charge. Okay, I think somebody's got to be given that responsibility. It's either the clerk or the police chief, you pick.
In practice, this will be functionally no different than when I send the police the list of dog licenses. The dog licenses are something that issued by me, and on a periodic basis, I send the police an updated list of who has dog licenses, so it's...
That's fine, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if it doesn't work, we can always change the ordinance. So that's something you have. I thought what you were going to suggest is put the list on the police website.
Yes.
And that, I think, is a good idea. You don't need that in the ordinance, and it would be just a list of the addresses, not a name, not anything other than this is the list. So not only will anyone that's having a license or applying for a license to be a canvasser, peddler, or solicitor, but anyone can look on the website and see who's on the list.
Okay. So that would be
Thank you.
You would suggest putting people who on the do not knock on the website for public viewing?
The people that are on not the people, the addresses.
Yeah, but still, I don't know.
Okay, so if you,
I would
again,
think if you register for solicitation permission, you get handed a list or whatever the case versus all of the world seeing.
The list would still be subject to the Open Public Records Act,
Certainly,
so
but
it's
it's
public
trying to make
information
it
one
as,
way or the
you know what I
other.
mean? The whole world know where everyone's living and all the rest and the addresses and such.
It'll be just the address, it's
I
not going to show
understand
you.
that. People still have issues with this. Trust me.
that's fine.
I would leave that
That
off.
was just
Personally, I would agree with Kurt.
the
that
way it's
probably
written.
best to
It's
just leave that off the website.
You give it to the individual applying for a license.
Yes, I'd leave it.
And Albert, can you just clarify, I'm on the do not knock list. and someone knocks on my door, what is that procedural where the clerk will say, this is what you should do to report, or?
No, well, this provides for having a display sign on your property indicating that you are on the list and should not be solicited. I think the practical answer is they would report that to the police. The police could issue a summons, and then that person, because the police didn't see the actual violation, that person would have to come to municipal court and testify that this person came to their door. But it's a fairly straight way of proving the case. It's not, either you're on the list or you're not. Somebody says you came to the door. It's fairly straightforward to enforce. But like any complaint, it has to be initiated by someone.
Yep. And then as it relates to the penalties, it references Chapter 1, Section 1.5, but that's not in the ordinance. I couldn't find it.
Well,
what is the actual penalty per
It is
se?
at the very beginning of your ordinance book in Chapter 1. That is up to $2,000 a violation.
Per violation?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Either 90 days or 6 months in jail. But remember, that is the outside limit.
Yep.
It is up to the municipal court judge to assess a fine. So it's from $0 to $2,000.
Great, thank you.
And Mayor, just so if anybody out there is asking this question, there is a list in the ordinance of categories of people who this would not apply to, so that if you have asked for a delivery, that's certainly they're entitled to come and deliver. Any member who is a member of a public, a civic, a charitable, educational, or non-profit organization, so local scouts can still come to your door. It also includes fire department type projects, and it also includes local candidates.
Okay. And to that end, when the form is created for people to fill out, my intention is to include a list of the exempt persons, just so that way people understand that when any of you are campaigning, or if there's missionaries going door to door, that there are people that, they'll still call the police anyway, but just so they understand that they're still going to get political candidates.
Okay, great. All right, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes?
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearing on June the 27th.
Thank you, Greg. And the last ordinance to be introduced is 2019-13 Sewer Bond Ordinance. Bob, are you going to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance is necessary to remove and replace a storage tank that's in the ground. It's about 34, 35 years old, double wall tank. We want to remove it before it reaches the end of its life expectancy. There's some wear and tear on it, but this will also help us meet the updated criteria for our treatment plant. So that's the synopsis.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Anyone second it? I second it. Can I second it? Yeah, I'll second it. And any committee discussion? Anyone would like to mention? Okay. And Greg, please roll call vote.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Ritter?
Yep.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearing on June 27th.
Okay, great. Now we're moving on to the consent agenda. As you remember, it revised a little bit in the beginning of the meeting, and now we don't have the 2019-122, 123, and also we don't have resolution 2019-131 fertilization and maintenance of fields and lawns. And it will be discussed separately. It's not part of the consent agenda. Yes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items now left on the consent agenda. The consent agenda is the routine items that may be passed by a single roll call vote. Any committee member may call for a separate discussion or vote on any item. Now, Greg, would you like to go through
The
those?
resolutions remaining on the consent agenda are 2019-125 payment of bills, 2019-126 approving meeting minutes, 2019-127, approving executive session minutes. 2019-128, refunding overpayment of taxes. 2019-129, outside lien redemption. 2019-130, authorizing municipal aid grant application.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Anyone second it?
Second.
Second it, okay. Any committee discussions? All right, the roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slend?
Yes.
The next up would be 2019-131 for
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, great. So we're going to separately discuss this the resolution, 2019-131, fertilization and maintenance of fields and lawns.
Mr. Mayor, before we begin, may I provide a synopsis and some...
Sure.
And some comments?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm glad we're having this opportunity to talk about this evening. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that this township, our professional staff, we always do the right thing. Whether it's with this, whether it's talking about matters related to drainage, we always do the right thing. We had several people here speaking tonight because I personally spoke with members of the Environmental Commission to tell them about this so that nobody would be taken by surprise. I just want to make sure that we all understand that. We are able to have our collegial discussion because of that, because people were notified. A couple of other cogent points were the initial decision to try to become sustainable came from my predecessor. This was not discussed at the Township Committee level. This was a decision that was made by my predecessor, and it was mentioned in passing at a Township Committee meeting, but the decision was made, and it was a pilot program. The efforts to do that are laudable. There is not a $5,000 difference. There's a $24,510 difference in it, but that's because I have received a revised proposal from Lincoln Landscaping, and that's why we should not be voting on this tonight, because it just came in after 6 o'clock. And I've had extended discussions with Mr. Colnut from Lincoln Landscaping, and he's been very gracious, he's been overly communicative about the process. Part of the issues that Mr. Colnut has relayed is that last year, when this process was started, the township was supposed to aerate and seed along with the school district, or that was the game plan. That didn't happen, and Mr. Colnut has alluded to the fact that if you don't aerate and then seed twice a year, then whatever you're going to do for weed control will not work. He also had indicated that they were treating our fields based on a weed content of 5%, and it really was 20%. And then there was, in the fall, when they came back to do some of the additional work, the rain diluted whatever the product was that was put down. So Mr. Colnut has given us a proposal that would include aeration and the seeding, so that it could be done correctly. So the difference is really $24,510, but I was looking at it on my phone, so I will read it and I will forward that to the Township Committee, and I will forward another email that Mr. Colnut had sent that just explained a couple of additional items and one of his recommendations, but I wanted to read it more carefully before I released it. But he is recommending that for 2020 we have a model organic system that will be good, that will have timelines, that would be used for all of our fields, and all of our lawns, and that should be something that would be working on a calendar basis. But the initial cost is significantly more than we had budgeted for, or we had even anticipated. Also, all of our fields have been treated in some manner. So there has been some misunderstanding about the type of treatment. And part of that is me, because the field out here was treated, but it was for lime. All of the fields were treated, so that I guess the pH content could be monitored or whatever. So they weren't, that was the only thing that happened here, but all of our fields had some kind of treatment from Lincoln Landscaping, but only a few of the fields had the overall treatment. But that's where we stand. And the decision should be relooked at, but we need to look at it. We need to look at it objectively. And there is passion that's been expressed. There are good ideas, but we need to look at this new proposal and see what makes sense. But the key difference is it looks like there's aeration in there, and seeding, but that has to be done, or else we're wasting our money and we shouldn't be doing anything.
Bob, are they the only game in town, or do we seek other proposals?
We received another proposal from another organic company, and they were actually more. But I need to go back, because I'm not sure that company also included the aeration. But that was the big difference. It was anticipated last year that the township and some other resources would do the aeration and the seeding. And so.
Is that not the case, though? Can the DPW not do the aeration and seeding, or?
Well, it's the equipment. You have to have the piece of equipment to do the cutting of the trenches and then putting the seed in. We do not have that, neither does the school district.
And Borough doesn't have it either, I suspect.
That is correct. And so if you use a tractor, what happens is you can tow a machine, but then you tear up the fields. So there's an all-in-one piece of equipment that some of the contractors have that they do it, and it doesn't tear up the fields. So.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask if there was a way, you and I talked about this, about going back and finding out whether there was money that we don't need to pay them because of the services that they did not provide that we thought, or money that we could recoup from them, or average out some way because we thought they were going to be coming to do certain things and they didn't?
Well, you know what, I'm not sure. I know that this is for a full year. I need to confirm that this is for a full year. So that basically that $29,510 amount would wind up being, probably half for this year. I don't know what they can do, but it came in at after 6 tonight.
So how the timing would work? So if we don't vote on that tonight, which if we follow your suggestion, then in 2 weeks we discuss it, vote on it, yes or no, whichever way. So what happens in next 2 weeks? Would that impact any? Would that be any negative impact? Or?
Well, there's no work. The fields will just look like they are now, and there'll be more clover or whatever. But we've got to look at this proposal. It's got to be evaluated, and we have to then make the right decision. And then we have to say, all right, if this is what the township committee wants to do, where will we transfer the funds from?
Now, to Kurt's point, so you have another proposal that was higher than what we have, higher than Lincoln. Can we get third proposal, or is it going to just delay everything? So I don't know how.
The theoretical answer is you can get a third proposal. We have a third proposal.
We do.
We have one from a company that uses pesticides on the field. But if you're talking about can we get a third proposal from another company that would not use pesticides, the theoretical answer is yes. I don't know how fast it can occur.
Okay. In the initial bid process,
we did quotes on this because bid threshold is now $40,000.
So in the initial quote process, True Green was 11,630, Lincoln was 17,400, and the third company was 19,000.
Yes.
So that would be, so where are we coming up with $29,000?
Because when I spoke with Lincoln Landscaping, they told me that to do it, the true service from my terminology, soup to nuts, these are the steps that would be required. And last year, they did not give a proposal for the aeration, even though that had been talked about, because the intent was to do it in-house or with the school district. So,
So it wasn't included with the quote?
correct.
I imagine that
So it wasn't a
True Green
mistake?
didn't include that either, or the other parties.
Correct.
That nobody did.
Nobody did. So if we don't have the equipment, so when was the last time the fields were aerated and seeded?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I know the school district has talked about it, but I don't know when the last time that was done.
Well, seeding could probably have happened at any time. It's the aeration that's the real challenge if we don't have the equipment. So that's something that might have been notable. You can seed a lawn any old time, right? Right.
So I just, those are the points that I wanted to make.
So are we going to up the three, are we going to requote then based on aeration and seeding so we can see the true numbers between the three companies? Because I got to think that they're all going to go up.
Well, I think we have to. I think I have to ask that question so that we can make sure we're comparing
Apples to apples.
the same items.
So what's the consensus of the, is there a consensus?
I'm all for it. I mean,
Right now, our sister community in the borough is, they're not doing anything. So they're just leaving, I will use the term, they're just mowing the lawn, and they're...
So they're saving money.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And if we go through this
To the
evaluation,
borough.
if we go through this evaluation process and, decide to do nothing, we will have money to transfer to surplus.
So,
I've spoken to a few people about this, walk the fields, and there is some concern about the do-nothing proposal. And I'm sure you're aware of that as well. We looked at 2017 being the kind of true green year, 2018 being the pesticide-free, the organic year, and the 2019 being the do-nothing year. So the people that I spoke to were speaking specifically about the baseball fields. And between 2017 and 2018, there was no appreciable difference. The 2019
Difference in what?
quality of the field. 2019, which I'm going to equate with approach number 3, which is we haven't done anything to the fields. Now they were saying they were starting to see some weeds. Obviously, there's the clover. There's bare spots that I observed. I didn't realize that we hadn't, for I guess a couple of years now, done weeding and seeding and aeration.
I have some pictures of bare spots.
Yeah, so that explains that. So I guess I'd need to understand really a kind of even a larger scope than this, which is, we did go organic. It was a 2-year effort. It was a big effort. There was big quotes. Kurt was quoted as being, 100% behind this and safety for our kids. The whole committee, I believe, voted in favor of it or was in favor of the concept at the time. It was something lauded by the community. So I think that now, not knowing that we're not seeding and aerating, which is a huge component, and we spoke about it with some of the baseball people too, that fall when those fields are dormant, to be able to aerate and seed and recover and overseed in a situation where you're going organic is critical to the health of the fields. So I think we need to take 2 steps back here and look at how we're going to seed and aerate. Is there a cost-saving opportunity with the schools, the borough, and the township? What something like that would cost, and then go back and requote with the 2 components, the seeding and aeration component, versus a shared equipment program, and then just come back to the whole thing.
That's plausible, that's something that's good to think about, but I don't believe we can rely on some other municipal entities. I think we have to take a look at what would be the cost for the township. We're partially here discussing this in June because in February we had meetings with 2 other governmental entities about shared services for this, and there was no consensus to move forward together.
Correct.
So I think we have to look at what's best for the township, and then let others know if they want to join us. We would be willing to do that, but I think it is the responsibility of the township to decide what we want to do, and then communicate that to others. But we should make the decision.
You can call me naive, but I thought at the outset of this, with all of the fanfare and all of the good wishes and everything else, I really didn't think that the optics were going to be this dramatic. And I have taken my walks, and as I mentioned earlier on, I say, call me naive, but I had no idea that I was going to see the proliferation of weeds, the proliferation of clover. And, my kids grew up playing sports here too. The accolade after accolade we used to get from neighboring communities, you've heard it, you've been on the boosters, Tracy.
Yeah.
People would always comment on how beautiful our facilities were, the playing fields, etc.
Not so much.
And well, I'll tell you what, back in my day, I certainly did. Maybe things haven't gone so well since then, but I just, I was really surprised at how poor things looked when I was taking some tours around lately.
I think the do-nothing approach is really showing...
Come home to roost,
Come
right.
home to roost.
So I will never actually be pleased with the do-nothing approach when it comes to taking care of our playing fields. It sounds corny to say that these are the silent ambassadors to our community, but people do come from all over. They come for little kids sports, they come for big kids sports, and I don't think you can sell short. And even to the conversation that the tennis players had, I understand all that. And it does say a lot about a community that you care about the recreational facilities when you're inviting other communities here.
Sure.
So do nothing is not an option.
Now, the suggestion on the table is to defer this to next meeting. Until then, Bob will do some research and some numbers and some due diligence. That's what we have on the table. So we don't have a motion. We're not voting on it right now, unless there's a consensus.
I agree.
Either way. So
to waylay, I agree. To push
what
this
do
back
you
another
like?
couple of
I'm
weeks.
asking informally, casually. What is the?
I don't think there's any way we can make a decision right now.
No.
I think
Okay.
So we have to look holistically at this whole thing with
Okay.
seeding and all this other stuff.
Well, if I may, it would be unfair. I mean, this, and I appreciate Mr. Coleman's diligence. This came in, and I applaud him for it. But
Sure.
it came in at after 6. So let's take a look at it, and let's not be knee jerk.
Sounds like.
Just get get the proposals, make sure they're all apples to apples. We're going to revisit it.
Yeah, that's what we did before. That's why that came up. But we will do it again.
Okay,
Thank
great. So that's the consensus.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for all your effort.
Mike, you didn't say anything. You agree with the team?
Yeah, I think it would be
Okay.
irresponsible to vote with so many unanswered questions. I mean, I think that with the data in front of us as of before the start of this meeting, I came tonight prepared to vote, in favor of the organic. But I think that with the changing target here, I think it would be irresponsible. We need to know what's being offered, what's the price is, and I think we're facing another 2 weeks of basically the no treatment option, and hopefully we can move forward promptly.
Okay, great.
There is a treatment for certain amounts of weeds or fungus. We can draw circles on it, and we have dog walkers. They could aim there.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so we're going to revisit this at the next meeting. So that's what the decision is. Okay.
And
great.
thanks to everyone who came out, and thanks to everyone who wrote letters, too.
I agree with that. And as a matter of order, perhaps, we were actually sort of pointing back and forth at the agenda. When it came to discussing this matter, just now as we did, is this where the public comments from our friends here who came to speak about it, should we have waited until that point? Because it says for matters that are not on the agenda. I know we've talked about this a lot. But when it comes to talking about matters that are not on the agenda, I mean, technically, this was on the agenda?
No, it was on the agenda, and it remained on the agenda.
Right.
It just was changed from consent to
Right.
non-consent.
So as a
it's-
matter of order, where it says it's an opportunity for members of the public to talk about issues which are not topics.
Well, Karen,
For a
the
public-
key
for a
words
public
there
hearing,
are
for a
not
public-
scheduled for
for a
public hearings.
public
tonight.
hearing.
Right.
That's referring to ordinances
ordinances.
that have their own dedicated public
Oh,
hearings.
okay, so this is included in that. I'm just asking as
No,
a
no,
matter of order.
the-
The last thing I'm
no,
doing is
the-
being contentious. I really am just asking for my own
The
edification.
first public hearing and the second public hearing, you can speak about anything you want on or off the agenda, except for the ordinances, which get their own separate public hearing.
So the consent agenda is not included in the ordinances.
Correct.
Thank you. That's merely my point. That's all I wanted to know.
This question was addressed when the committee adopted the third set of bylaws this year. If we want to go for a fourth, we can change things to go with what Albert had proposed.
Thank you for the clarification, and we're done with the consent agenda and the discussion after that.
Can we,
So what
since we're
do we have?
discussing some of these things, can we discuss just the tennis courts briefly, since it was brought up during public session?
Tennis courts, can we discuss tennis courts? Now, I would say we can, but we shouldn't, because we didn't include it in the discussion in the beginning of the meeting, but yes, whatever you want to tell, say it.
Well, I'd like to respond to some of the members who have come here to speak to about I don't know if there's anybody left for the tennis courts, but as president of the Boosters 2 years ago and vice president before that and a 4-year member, this has just been an ongoing issue with the tennis courts. And it's embarrassing, to Karen, use your word. It's an embarrassment to have people come to these tennis courts. The blue wind mesh is held together with blue duct tape. There are cracks on every single court. There's some sort of cistern, I don't know even what the heck this thing is, that is completely rusted through. There's 3 of them. I don't even know what they're for, but they're all rusted. There is multicolored paint all over the place. 2 years ago, I came before the committee and asked about this being a liability or a safety issue with all the cracks on the courts and the heaving on the side, the low spots. Tom at that time, begrudgingly, but put it into the budget to fix some of the major cracks. All of those have reappeared. There's cracks going all the way this way. There's cracks going all the way this way. It is shambles.
Are the same ones who paved Huron Drive?
I just wanted to speak to those who came tonight because it has been a 5-year issue that I know you John looked at the courts and looked at, at what point in time. I'd like to know, when was the last time these courts, do we have any records of when the courts were resurfaced?
Well, they haven't been done since they were initially constructed. They haven't resurfaced.
And when, I'm almost afraid to ask this, when were they built?
Ask Bailey Brower.
Sometime when I was working here, but toward the early time in my tenure, probably
They were
about,
rebuilt.
yeah, probably about 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, it was about a $500,000 project. We reconstructed the entire course. And those are drains, because you basically, the topography, the water flows towards Spring Street, so it captures the water before it goes on to court to court to court.
Yeah, the water's in and dirt and twigs are in the back of the court.
Perhaps this is an initiative for the Recreation Committee to work and figure out what a solution might be, working with the Board of Ed, seeing that the Board of Ed certainly is utilizing these facilities as well.
They've got
a $67 million budget.
I would have
Perhaps
I would have absolutely no problem doing it. I've already made a call to Mike LaSousa to see what we can work out in terms of a shared arrangement. It's just a shame that previous recreation committees just
It's also a shame that a $500,000 project was actually allowed to.
was just let to fester.
Now,
You just can't kick the can down. You can't kick the can down the road like that on it
So
because
let's see what the current Recreation Committee
when-
can do, rather than talking.
okay.
Let's see what we
Bob,
can
you
do.
were trying to say something.
When this is reviewed for whether it's the 2020 or the 2021 capital budget, there are other surfaces out there that should be looked at. There's a surface called Mataflex that several municipalities use for their municipal courts. They also use it for basketball courts, but it comes in different formats. So there is a Mataflex surface that basically has holes in it, so it drains. So you can play on it after a few minutes after a rainstorm. But there are other surfaces that we should look at and see.
in the interim, can we replace the windscreens so that they're not held together by duct tape? Can we get rid of the rusted urn things that are out there so that somebody doesn't cut themselves on it? Is there just something that we can do? Can we refinish or power wash and seal the wooden structure so that doesn't go away? There's some rot in the bottom of it.
We could take a look at all of it. There's some rot that if we power wash it, I think some of the panels will come off.
Break.
But you know what? We'll take a look
please.
and we'll see what we can do.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Summer help.
All right, so let's move on. So hearing of citizens, okay, let's do the discussion items. What is the first one?
The first one was prohibiting trampolines in front yards.
Okay, so what do we want to discuss? So let's discuss.
Well, I'll ask Bob if there's been, I know you talked to MPINC about this, about the concern of having play sets, trampolines, other kid type of paraphernalia things in the front yard.
And what's the genesis of this? I've never heard this before.
I've had some residents call up and ask if there's an ordinance for this and whether or not there could be one initiated for this.
I guess the question had come up: Can you have playground equipment in the front yard or in the side? Or a follow-up question was, or the front yard or a side yard of a? I guess the second question was a side yard of a house on a corner, or where should the?
I was going to say, is this a specific property or is this kind of
I
a
don't know.
larger scale issue?
This was the question was posed as a larger scale issue. So the question was, is there, do we have anything on the books right now that regulates where playground equipment or other recreational equipment should be placed on somebody's property? And after an initial search, the answer was no. So.
No, I'm saying I know that their request is very broad. I mean, the initial request, did that refer to one property?
I don't know.
So it was just a general
Yeah.
request?
Yeah.
Did it refer to one property that you know of, or?
There are a couple of properties. There's one on Huron, there's one over on, I think Fairmont over here. where the play set or trampoline is in the front
I
yard.
think the one on Huron was the one that I had heard.
Yeah.
Was the one that had brought attention to the question.
And what does Huron have?
That is a trampoline in the front yard.
So that's like that's a movable structure. The
Yes.
trampoline's a movable structure.
So it's a safety issue, one, however close it is to the streets. Two, aesthetically, we have ordinances, I believe, that prohibit certain signage and such on one's front yard. One could argue having a giant trampoline in one's front yard, if you have every house on your block with a trampoline on it or a play set on it, aesthetically wise, it's probably not the best look as far as I'm concerned.
All right, can we, John, can you, what is the suggestion? So what is the next, are we?
Is the request to look at crafting an ordinance that would?
I think that's what.
That's what my request is, one, to see if there's other townships, other boroughs, any municipalities who have similar ordinances, or how do they approach such a situation?
Just do research first, let's see what they are doing in other towns. Maybe, well,
I think obviously it's a balancing act between what a property owner's rights are and what is good for the whole community, and whether it does pose a safety risk, whether it poses an enticement of sorts. Is there anything like that in municipal law? If you're posing an enticement, like make somebody want to really come and jump on your trampoline or anything like that?
There's the legal concept of an attractive nuisance.
Well, there you go, Albert.
But
municipal law. Is it an attractive nuisance, is there such a thing?
No, conceptually, there's an attractive nuisance, things that draw people that could potentially result in an injury. And obviously, there are a lot of studies about the dangers of trampolines and not using them in the proper way.
Right.
I personally am not aware of any ordinance prohibiting trampolines or other type of sports equipment in either the front or side yard or a corner lot. It's something that I'd have to research. I just don't know.
We will do the research and report back, but our initial research was our own municipal ordinance. And then we will look to see what other municipalities are doing, if they're doing anything about that.
Great, thank you.
It's worth it, thank you.
all right, great. Next item is?
Is it worth just asking the homeowner?
Asking who?
Instead of crafting an ordinance for one person for all residents, is it worth asking the homeowner if it's an attractive nuisance?
Don't call it an attractive nuisance. I was just using I was asked if there is a concept in the law about attractive nuisances. There is.
I could definitely see that be some kids running by and seeing if you're saying it's right by the street,
Yep.
then I could definitely see kids running by and thinking, hey ho, here we go.
Well, that's why pools have fences around them, because
Right.
those are attractive nuisances. You're attracted to that situation, which may be a dangerous situation, so they put a fence around it. But let's look at what other towns have done in this area, and that I think is for the time being. If you want to try to address it administratively, that's fine too.
Administratively, meaning giving the homeowner a call and just saying this is a situation that may attract an issue, a safety issue, and then just finding out why anybody would put a trampoline in their at the front yard at the street, rather than kind of legislating.
It's not just going to be about trampolines, it's going to be about playground equipment and a permanent recreation equipment or something like that.
So when we look at that, I'd like to look at the number of people that's affecting.
Okay.
They're not gonna, I mean, they're gonna drive around town and survey every home.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, you get free time, I suspect.
I've got when I go out to my deputies and officer stuff.
Yeah.
Bob's been driving the streets every day.
That's right. All right, next item is?
The next item was about communications protocols and press releases.
Okay. So Kurt, you brought it up, so what is your
Yeah, I guess
question?
during the campaign, there was a press release that went out issued regarding the PSE&G settlement. I had some calls from residents questioning, because that, when it came out in the TAP, it was news to me, and folks had questioned, how did this come about? And I didn't have an answer for them. And I know when I was in Communications Committee, our protocol manual dictated that Communications Committee wrote the press release, and then they shared the press release with the entire committee before anything was issued. And people who called me said it seemed more like a campaign release than it was a township release. So I just want clarification from the Communications Committee, how it came to fruition and whatnot.
Bob, I don't know, what time did you notify us of that? You sent a note out to the committee about the good news about the settlement with PSE&G.
I had received a call from Mr. Scott, and I confirmed some facts. I sent out an email to the township committee. I don't exactly remember when it was, but I sent it out to the whole committee.
So Kurt, you didn't get that?
Well, getting a notification from Bob is different than a press release going out from the mayor touting
I'm
his
sorry.
accolades.
I
for-
thought you said when people called you, you didn't have any idea what they were talking about.
Well, I didn't have any idea at the time.
You didn't have an idea of this negotiation was going on, or you didn't have an idea of press
I didn't have an
release?
idea of the settlement, but that's not the point. The point is, when it came out, that's when I heard about it. I didn't see Bob's email until after the fact. I'm like, all right, there's a TAP article on this. There must be something else going on here.
Earlier that day.
So the
he
question
was-
is, what is the protocol from the Communications Committee? Who wrote the press release? Why was protocol not followed, is what my question is.
What is the protocol? What is it?
Protocol is the Communications Committee writes a press release, shares it with legal, I should ask the Communications Committee.
I have not received any press releases beforehand when you...
That's not true.
Okay, so that's
Thanks,
what
thanks,
I'm
thanks.
not...
Well,
Thanks for
I just want to
okay.
clarify something about the Communications Committee. The Communications Committee hasn't met in 4 years.
That's not true
So-
either. That's not true either, Tracy.
Well,
So let's talk about the issue at hand
Who was on the
today.
Communications
Let's
Committee,
talk about
Kurt?
the issue at hand today.
Who
The
was on
issue
the
at hand today is
Communications
the
Committee?
questioning, how did this press release come to fruition, and did the current Communications Committee follow protocol? Yes or no?
Yes. So the Communications Committee, to my knowledge, made up of the people who were on the Communications Committee, I don't know if you had a different Communications Committee, hadn't met in 4 years.
That's not true, Tracy. You were not on the Communications Committee for the past 4 years. Let's speak to the issue at hand, which is the press release that was issued during the campaign from the mayor,
It's not-
and it was presumably created by the Communications Committee, which is protocol.
Okay.
Is that what
So-
happened or not?
Let's go through the process. Bob sent out an email
Yes.
to the committee
Okay.
in the early afternoon,
The whole committee.
to the whole committee, including you, explaining the settlement. I asked Bob if we could publicize it. Tayfun said he was going to, as mayor, write a press release. I said, can you please send me that press release? He said he would. I reviewed it. And then I said, the best thing to do is to send it out to the entire committee. So I believe that went out that night. The next day, it went into the TAP. So it was good news that we
I
got
don't believe any
a
email from the
settlement.
mayor came out to the
And
committee, unless all the
it
settlements being
was
spammed
great
and
news for the
getting lost.
township, something that we had all agreed to do as a result of the discussion with PAC&G. We all sat there and agreed that night that because of the relationship that Tayfun had with Mr. Scott, that he would continue on with the negotiations and provide some sort of...
So the Communications Committee vetted the press release in advance? Or
I
just
did.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, you had not seen it? It's a
I don't-
Communications Committee, not a communications person. So
No.
that's my questioning. I mean, we have protocols and procedures for a reason.
No, I have no problem with a representative of the Communications Committee looking at a
I
particular...
mean, Mike, you know when you were in the committee, when I sent the press release out, I would send it out and get comments back, right
Well-
or wrong?
I recall a number of press releases that came out during your tenure that came straight out, and I never saw.
I disagree.
I never saw either.
But
I disagree again.
As a general rule, since January 1st, the Communications Committee has met virtually monthly. We've addressed the renewal of the Comcast contract at one.
Can we, okay, I'm proud of
Okay.
that. We should hear those committee reports to the committee. I'm concerned about the most recent issue, action or inaction of the Communications Committee.
and you have the answer. You have the answer.
All right, so you wrote a press release. You
And
went
I
to the
shared- I
communications
sha- I
committee to
shared
write a
it.
press release.
Yes.
Tracy reviewed it, she approved it, and then it went out.
That's correct.
Unbeknownst to the rest of the committee.
Well, no, it went.
The rest of the
no.
committee had the information earlier.
Did you get the press release? I sure as heck.
It's not the press
Not in the
release.
form of a press release.
But you know what?
I
Yeah.
received the
That
news
is,
from Bob. I did not receive a press release in advance of the press
Picking it up.
picking.
That's my point. So
If you-
if the protocol was not followed, it wasn't followed, I would request the communications committee, please refer back to the protocol manual that was created 4 years ago for the first time ever, and follow those procedures.
Is that something that the committee voted on?
Yes, it was.
The communications, was it an ordinance or a resolution?
I believe it might have been a resolution.
resolutions
Yeah.
live 1 year.
So resolutions are good for 1 year. So we'll have to go back into the communications committee and take a look at what the protocols are
No,
going
we
to
can
be.
have it, definitely, we should have a protocol, and we should follow it, but that is the.
Has it been
route we
renewed every
follow,
year,
you know,
or what did the
Communication
communications committee do? Greg, do you recall at all?
There was a communications protocol that was put together back in, what was it, 2014 was your
For
first year? on the
2014,
committee?
for the first
And, yeah, that was the last time we had met when, that year when we had, when that was put together, and it was done by resolution by the then Township Committee, and that was the last time the communication protocols were ever addressed in my
So
So we
recollection.
don't have any formal communication protocols now?
There been, when there were press releases, they were sent out to the communications committee. I don't know if comments were ever sent back, but it was at least sent out for review. But we haven't talked about the protocols since they were adopted, or at least they haven't been reviewed since.
So we don't have a really process defined and followed through after 2014. And I agree with you that we should have a process to follow through each time we send a press release out.
I think that's
but
something
we
that
can't,
now-
we can't really say, this is true, this is not, this is, the right way, this is the wrong way, when you never followed it. So,
Again, I disagree.
okay, I disagree too, so that's fine, that's healthy, we disagree, and, we should just move on. And
I think,
we should have,
if I'm not mistaken, we received word from Mr. Hoffman on May 30th.
Thursday, May 30th at
of
2:40
the
PM.
News from
Mr.
from
Scott.
Mr. Scott.
Correct.
That this settlement has been, yeah, right, okay,
Once I
good,
did it.
okay, I just wanted to look at it. But then immediately thereafter came a press release that went out, but I did not receive a notice of the press release as a member of the governing body.
you did not.
saying,
That is
for-
correct.
Please be aware this is for immediate release, so,
Okay,
that was May 30th,
okay.
but I did receive somebody out.
So we should discuss and see how we should proceed. And, if the governing body members, each member should look at the press release before, or should they be, should that be only the communication committee? So maybe
Mayor?
we should just deep dive and put together a process and step by step.
For Open Public Meetings Act compliance, I would suggest that it be just the communications committee and not the
Entire
committee
body.
as a whole, just to, keep us square with the laws that we're
Then it
bound
was
by.
followed properly.
No. The process had been, the communications committee opines on the press release being issued, but as a courtesy to the governing body, it is sent out to everyone in advance saying, the following press release will be going out.
Is it courtesy or protocol?
Well, it's a part of the protocol, but I mean, courtesy to the extent that it's not open for comment, because the comment has been already been feedback, the feedback's already been received by the communications committee,
Yeah.
legal counsel,
To that point, it
administrative.
can be sent out for, as Ms. Ritter said, as a courtesy, but as far as the actual review and comment process, that should be just the communications committee. That way you're not having a quorum discuss.
Okay.
I think now that we're back up in meeting and we have a functioning committee, I think we'd be more than happy to take
Tracy,
a
we've had a
look
functioning committee in the
at-
past, and the fact that you
I'm-
keep bringing this up
I'm
is
not
kind of
done. Kurt,
ridiculous.
stop talking over me, I'm
Well,
not
then stop
done.
lying.
Wait a second.
I'm not lying.
Please, you are. Please
So-
be adults here. Please, grown-ups.
We'd be
Please
more than happy-
Don't talk over each other, please.
We'd be more than
Both.
happy to take a look at what you did in 2014.
Thank you.
And then take a look at it through a different lens with the communications committee and see what changes we have to make. Were videos included in that communications?
Yes, I believe they were.
And how were your videos handled?
What do you mean, how were they handled?
Was it distributed through the communications committee? Did they go to legal?
Oh, the mayoral videos. No, but
Yeah.
those videos were not part of the communications protocol.
Why not?
Because we had not done them back in that 2014. That was a new initiative back in 2017, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying the communications protocols didn't only apply
They
in
addressed
2014?
perspectives and other videos that Tom Salas had done.
So they didn't, so the protocols existed in 2014, but when you did all of your videos, they didn't exist?
What?
I'm asking you if you did, when you did all of your videos.
Yes.
What protocols you followed with legal, with the communications committee, with members of the committee?
I created those videos as being the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they weren't shared with anybody, weren't shared with legal, didn't follow protocols?
There were no protocols in place for those videos, Tracy. Try as you might, there were no protocols in place at that time. So maybe you guys, if you want to take a look at the protocols, you can update those, incorporate any kind of procedures and protocols you want in place for those types of videos.
I'm confused as to whether the protocols...
Well, you are
the
confused.
Videos were not included in the protocols in 2014? You just said they were.
I said the
right,
videos, perspectives, and other videos that were produced in-house by Tom Salvis.
Oh, that's what specifically says in the protocol?
Take a look at the protocols, Tracy, okay?
All right, why don't we all take a look at the protocols?
We
That's
still-
fine.
we still
That's
have
fine.
some other things
Let's
to
take a look
discuss.
at the protocol, all of us. All right, let's
Try
move
as you
on.
might.
Let's move on. Yes.
If we're done with this, we
done.
can move on to the or we have another hearing of citizens before we go.
Hearing of citizens. Right now, you can come up and talk about anything you would like. You have 5 minutes.
Kara Feeser, 3 Falmouth Road. I just wanted to note that whether you do organic methods of controlling weeds on the fields or you go the conventional route, it is still best practice to aerate and seed. In fact, in discussing with True Green on the phone a couple weeks ago, that was a recommendation that he would give as well. So I just wanted to note that it's not just an organic thing, but it's a treatment of the lawn fields in general. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more comment to give the flavor of what True Green is. Kathy Abbott, 41 Road. Do you know that True Green and ChemLawn merged? And which name did they pick? They didn't pick ChemLawn, but they are doing chemically loaded lawns. So when you say True Green, it's greenwashing. It is absolutely ChemLawn.
Anyone else? All right, now we're closing this floor to the citizens.
Mayor, may I
Sure.
make one comment? This is just for the owners of 46 Delwood Avenue. You've been eloquent up here talking about some issues. I would be happy to talk with you. I've been on that path. I've been in the backyard. I've been on the high school property during rain, looking at what's going into the backyard, because your yard has the deepest backyard in the area. So I would be happy to speak with you. But I do want to state that I know that you're frustrated, but there's usually 2 sides to every story, and I do take issue with you because of the treatment that your characterization of former Township Administrator Tom Chiccarone. I have not found him to be that way. There is correspondence here in the file about this issue, but Mr. Chiccarone is not here to defend himself, and I do take issue with the characterization that he lied. There might be some kind of a misunderstanding, but I do not believe that's the case, and I also believe that the treatment of our township engineer, could be a little different. But I will be happy to speak with you. But the characterization of my predecessor, I just do take issue with. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we need a motion to go into the executive session, don't we?
I'll read the resolution first.
All right, please.
Resolution 2019-P-09, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded, whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Litigation in the matter of the Township of Chatham for a judgment of compliance of its third-round housing element and fair share plan, docket number MRS-L-1659-15. B, potential property acquisition, open space. It is anticipated that the minutes on the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13. The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I second it. Oh, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes.